The legendary truck gun struck again. In a split second, a goddess descended, promising a world of swords and sorcery. But here is the twist. His power was absolute. A single punch could pulverize the mightiest beasts. Literally, at just 5 years old, no monster stood a chance against him. But before we witness his glory, let's rewind to a messy bedroom floor. A young boy sat amidst a fortress of manga, his lifelong obsession. These stories had been his oxygen since he was a toddler. He burned through story after story, staring intently at the pages. Yet, he always reached the same disappointing verdict. The protagonists, way too pathetic. His true admiration belonged to the shadows, the unseen masters disguised as nobodies, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Since childhood, that was his dream, to become the mysterious power lurking in the background. He spent years mastering the art of the unseen helper. When an old woman struggled with a crushing load, he saw his chance. Whoosh, the weight vanished instantly, leaving the cart light as a feather. The woman blinked, bewildered by the sudden miracle. Concealed behind a wall, he watched the scene with a smug grin. Then, he slipped away like a phantom, avoiding detection. One good deed was his limit for the day. For 10 years, he meticulously planned these secret interventions, living his fantasy. But just as he reveled in his success, bam! An 8-ton truck delivered a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Darkness took him. He jolted awake in a void, confused. He scrambled to his feet, sure that the impact had been fatal. A divine voice pierced the silence. Welcome to the world of magic. A winged beauty descended, floating with ethereal grace. I have been waiting for you, O pure soul. She introduced herself as Hursa, the goddess of this realm, her offer a second chance at life. Do you know who I am? He asked. Of course, Hursa smiled. You are one of the rare few who do good without seeking glory. The gods were quite entertained by your secret crusade. He stood there, simply listening to her revelation. The truth hit him like a brick. He hadn't been a mysterious shadow at all. He had been the gods' reality TV show. Hursa studied him, amusement dancing in her eyes. She laughed softly. You are truly entertaining, exactly as I predicted. I grant you a divine blessing, she proclaimed. Choose your destiny, hero, demon king, dragon, or supreme ruler. Everything is within your grasp. What do you desire? His eyes burned with intensity. I want to be an HSC. The goddess blinked, utterly baffled by the acronym. A hidden strength character. He roared. That is my only path. He explained his deep dissatisfaction. My previous life, it lacked flair. It felt incomplete. Fanning people in secret, sweeping streets unseen. That was merely community service. A true hidden strength character lies dormant until the critical moment. Then boom. They unleash godlike power, leaving the masses trembling in awe. The goddess nodded slowly. I see. You desire overwhelming might, yet you wish to remain a nobody in the eyes of the world. So be it, Hursa decreed. You shall be reborn as a lowly commoner in this new world. Your strength will eclipse heroes, crush demon kings, and shame dragons. However, her voice turned cold. The moment your true power is exposed to the public, your heart will shatter. He froze. Excuse me, my heart will what? Ignoring his panicked screams, the goddess waved her hand. Good luck on your lonely path. And just like that, he was gone. 2 years later. Conclusion. The goddess is terrible at customer service. A pack of snarling wolves circled him, but panic was nowhere to be found. He faced the giant alpha, his aura shifting. I am the apex predator here. Flash, in a heartbeat, the pack lay decimated on the forest floor. He surveyed his handiwork, adrenaline surging. Now this is power. The alpha wolf staggered up, trembling. He tilted his head. Wait, weren't there 5 of you? Terror seized the beast. It turned and bolted, desperate to escape the monster in human skin. He watched it go, impressed by its speed. A realization dawned on him. His heart remained steady. So if only monsters witness my power, the curse doesn't trigger? Before the wolf could escape, a shockwave slammed it into the dirt. He flickered next to the beast. Stay, he commanded. Then he vanished into the trees to silence the rest of the pack. Silence returned to the forest. No monsters left, no human witnesses. Perfection. Urine, now a 9-year-old reincarnate, dusted off his hands and headed home. As the village came into view, a voice pierced the air. "Urine." A girl stormed up to him, hands on her hips. "Where have you been? You vanished without a word." He scratched his head, feigning innocence. "Ah, just a stomach ache." She didn't buy it. "You should have told someone. You know you're too weak to be out alone." She lectured him about the wolves, and he bowed his head. "I'm sorry," he muttered, perfecting his act. She turned to the other kids, sighing. "The wolf attacks are making farm work impossible." One boy chimed in, "At least the priest's prayers are working. The pack seems smaller today. If only they knew the truth." Suddenly thud, a rough hand clamped onto Oran's head. A man threw him into the dirt with a sneer. "You ungrateful brats, stop wandering off." The girl rushed to his side, eyes wide with worry. "Urine." The man loomed over them, his voice dripping with disdain. "Pathetic. Short, weak, and useless. Even after I took you in, you're nothing but a burden." A concerned friend rushes over, panic in their eyes as they ask if he's all right. Sprawled on the dirt, Urian whispers an apology, his heart pounding with relief that his cover hasn't been blown. The director barks orders for everyone to grab their brooms and scramble out. The fool has no clue that the helpless boy just annihilated the monsters lurking in the shadows. He threatens that anyone who forgets the song will be fed to the wolves alive. A chill runs down Urian's spine. This isn't an orphanage. It's a hardcore survival camp from hell. The children's voices rise in a chilling chorus, singing about happiness. It's a twisted lie they force themselves to believe just to cope with their orphan reality. They sweep with forced smiles, brainwashed into thinking the tyrant actually cares for them. While they work, Ella leads the girls in a song praising the villagers for the scraps of food they receive. The adults watch the laboring children with pity in their eyes. They murmur among themselves about how badly they want to repay the little ones for their hard work. They heap praise on the director, calling him a saint for taking in homeless strays. A woman urges her husband to buy a chicken for the kids, sparking a rare glimmer of excitement in their eyes. Later that evening, a feast is laid out on the table. Roasted chicken and drinks sit there, a cruel temptation in the dim light. The director gorges himself like a glutton, tearing into succulent chicken legs. In the corner, the children's plates hold nothing but dry, tasteless potatoes. Urian stares at the injustice in silence. Huddled on the cold floor, the children whisper among themselves. Urian wonders why the meat is forbidden, leaving them with only meager tubers. A young girl innocently asks why they didn't get the chicken the lady donated. An older boy instantly hushes her, warning that silence is better than starving to death in the cold. Urian's eyes burn with suppressed rage as he glares at the director. Suddenly, the red-haired girl captures the room's attention, announcing a special surprise. The children gather round, gasping in awe. In her hands, she reveals the ultimate treasure amidst their poverty: fresh eggs. She confesses she swiped them from the lady in secret. She whispers a plan: eat them now or hide them in the mashed potatoes before they get caught. Pure joy erupts in the group, and one child declares he's diving in immediately. Urian just stares, his stomach twisting with hunger, mouth watering at the sight. Ella extends her hand, offering him her own egg. She insists with a serious look, warning that he's too skinny, and the director will discard him like trash if he doesn't bulk up. Even facing starvation, his pride holds firm. He refuses the gift, telling her to nourish herself instead. She leans in, desperate, claiming the egg will rot if not eaten. But then, a traitorous growl erupts from her own stomach, and she grabs his arm to hide her embarrassment. She freezes, mortified by the sound. Urian breaks the tension with a warm laugh, pushing the food back to her and insisting she eat. Urian smiles, lying that he isn't hungry. His mind drifts back to the dark days when he first arrived in this unforgiving world. A despised stray with nothing. The memory hits him with brutal clarity, being thrown hard onto the dirt. A merchant spat at him, yelling to get lost because his ragged appearance was scaring away paying customers. The man's voice dropped to a vicious growl, threatening him if he ever returned. An orphan's life was a sentence of constant misery. No hero came to save him. Hostility was the air he breathed. Even now, he can feel the cold ground from that moment he lay defeated in the dust. But then, a light pierced the darkness. A girl spotted him, recognizing a fellow lost soul. She introduced herself as Ella and beckoned him to follow her. She didn't sugarcoat the truth. The director was cruel, but at least there was a roof and food. It was a devil's bargain for survival. Urian listened to every word as if it were scripture. Her stomach rumbled, punctuating the reality. Holding his hand tight, she dragged him to the director and pleaded for his life. The tyrant observed him with a calculating sneer. Ella fought for him, swearing that a boy's strength would make him a valuable asset to the orphanage. In that instant, he realized she was a true angel. Snapping back to the present, he makes his choice and hands the egg back to his friend. He places a piece in her mouth, whispering a new dream. He suggests they aim for the Magic Academy, a paradise where they can study and feast until they're full. Hope catches fire instantly. The other children shout with wide eyes, declaring they want to go too. Ella pulls them all into a group hug, deciding no one gets left behind. The group celebrates, their imaginations running wild with visions of the delicious banquets awaiting them. Urian smiles, promising a future of books instead of brooms. He proposes a pact: survive this hellhole by any means necessary until their day of freedom arrives. Suddenly, the atmosphere shatters. The director calls them outside, his voice booming with the promise of great news. The bombshell drops like a guillotine. Ella has been adopted. Urian stands frozen, his mind going blank as the world crumbles around him. Tears fill Ella's eyes as she apologizes for leaving them behind. The children force smiles, torn between happiness for her and a bitter, stinging envy. But the director isn't finished. He announces there is more good news and points a finger straight at Urian. He congratulates the boy, declaring him the chosen sacrifice for the wolf god. Ella screams, shattering the moment this breaks their deal. He promised to protect Urian if she left. The man ignores her desperation. He turns to the boy with a sinister grin, asking if he knows why the wolf packs have suddenly vanished. Urian nods grimly, thinking he understands. The director sneers, cutting him off. You know nothing. The truth is bloodier than he imagined. The wolves don't appear because they are fed regular offerings. He mocks Urian's stature too weak to work, but perfect meat for the gods. He declares that Urian's death will buy the village safety. The twisted monster demands the other children applaud the sacrifice of their friend. Ella snaps. She screams the director's name, throwing herself between them. She offers her own life as the tribute, begging him to spare Urian. A fist flies toward her face. The man stops the blow millimeters from impact, snarling that he can't damage the merchandise before the sale. That moment broke her spirit. Since that day, Ella never spoke a word of defiance again. The nightmare expands. The director announces that Urian isn't the only one. The other children are next on the chopping block. He orders everyone except Urian to leave, isolating his victim for the end. Alone in the dim light, the boy weighed his heavy burden. He would deal with the wolf god in secret, then vanish into the shadows forever. A sudden voice pierced the silence, freezing him in place. He spun around, eyes widening as he recognized the silhouette in the doorway. It was Ella, breathless and searching for him. Urian asked what was wrong, but her gaze locked onto the flower crown resting on his head. She leaned in, eager for his approval. She asked if he liked her new haircut, shorn short to mirror his own reflection. He cut her off, panic rising in his chest. There's no time. He insisted, demanding they swap clothes immediately. Ella agreed, noting that his slight frame would fit her garments perfectly. Confusion clouded his eyes as he handed over his tunic. He demanded to know the meaning behind this sudden madness. Ella's voice was steady as steel. She revealed she intended to march to the altar as the sacrifice in his place. Urian gasped, asking if she truly grasped the horror of that fate. A smile of heartbreaking serenity graced her lips. She understood perfectly. Her own younger brother had been taken by the same darkness. Urian stared, his mind reeling from the tragic revelation. Ella confessed the truth of their meeting. When she first saw Urian, she believed the heavens had returned her brother to life. That was why she had sworn to protect him. Urian remained frozen, absorbing the weight of her devotion in silence. Tears welled in her eyes as she grabbed his shoulders. "Run," she begged. "Go where they cannot find you. I cannot watch my brother die twice." The thought of fleeing alone left him paralyzed. No, he refused, suggesting they escape together. Why are you so obsessed with dying for me? Ella shook her head, despair darkening her face. We would never make it. The adults are monsters of speed and strength. But she had a plan. She explained that the director's temper was a volatile thing. The moment he saw her ruined hair, his rage would blind him. When that beast loses control, he forgets everything. That chaos would be Urian's only window to escape. Gently, she reached out and touched the flowers on his head. She lifted the crown and placed the sentence of death upon her own brow. Please, she whispered, live for both of us. Urian realized the heartbreaking truth. She knew the orphanage was a trap, yet she chose to be the shield. He clenched his fists, enraged that his godlike strength felt so useless in this moment. The door crashed open. Slash, the director, loomed in the entrance, a knife gripping his hand. His eyes bored into Ella, demanding to know what she had done to her hair. The blade caught the cold light, gleaming with malicious intent. Ella stammered, trying to weave her web of distraction. The man lunged, seizing her by the skull. Merchandise. He spat. He roared that her value had plummeted because of her foolishness. Urian watched, his body locked in terror. He screamed her name, and the seal on his soul began to crack. Ancient power flooded his veins. Golden mana ignited in his eyes, illuminating the gloom. He clutched his chest, feeling his heart hammer against his ribs as the energy surged. His heartbeat became a violent drum. The memory of the goddess's curse echoed from the abyss of his mind. Her warning was absolute. The moment his true power was unleashed, his heart would shatter. Across the room, the director tightened his grip on Ella. The villain's gaze fell upon the flower crown. A twisted grin spread across his face. Ah, he sneered. Do you wish to join your brother in hell? With cruel delight, he decided to whisper a final secret to the doomed girl. I am the wolf god, he hissed. He confessed he was the butcher who ended her brother's life. I sold his flesh and bone for coin, he added coldly. The man proclaimed that orphans were merely livestock. It was their highest honor to die for the village's profit. He mocked the dead boy's memory. He was a fool who died smiling, believing his death served a greater good. Laughter shook the room as Ella's body went limp in his grasp. He noted with satisfaction that the struggle had left her. Urian's world went silent. The director turned, brandishing the bloodthirsty blade. Your little friend is gone, he announced without a shred of remorse. He twisted the knife in Urian's heart with words. That was Ella, the only one who ever truly loved you. Don't worry, I'll send you to her soon. Flashbacks flooded Urian's mind. Her laughter, her warmth, the way she stood before death to save him. A question burned in his soul. Why was he still hesitating? The director paused, confused by the sudden shift in the air pressure. Urian turned his back, diving into the void of his memories to face the goddess. In the vision, she asked him why he sought to be a high ranker, hero or demon king. Is it just attention you crave? Urian's answer had been simple. Heroes and demon kings are just tools for their own kind. The goddess had listened in silence. I reject those paths, he had declared. I will be neither. Back in the present, clarity struck like lightning. He would use his strength for one purpose, to protect his own. He moved faster than thought. The impact was catastrophic. A pillar of pure energy annihilated the director and pierced through the roof, shooting straight into the heavens. Ella was thrown by the shockwave. Urian dashed forward, catching her fragile form before she hit the ground. Desperation cracked his voice. Forgive me, he wept. A wet cough escaped her lips, and his eyes widened in horror at the blood. He screamed her name to the void. Faintly, barely a whisper, she responded. Urian called out again, clinging to hope. He summoned the light into his palms. A divine healing art activated, and the terrible wound began to knit back together. A shuddering breath escaped him as he realized she was safe. But as he held her close, the goddess's curse loomed over him like a dark cloud. His eyes locked onto the desolate, ruined horizon. With a voice as steady as steel, he declares one absolute truth. He has zero regrets. The dust settles after the catastrophic explosion of power, and he is shocked to find himself still breathing. Looking down, he spots the director's broken body on the floor. and the grim reality clicks into place. The logic is simple but deadly. If he obliterates his enemies before they can even comprehend his true power, the curse cannot touch him. In that fleeting moment, a legend begins. A terrifying protagonist is born, wielding hidden strength that the world isn't ready for. By the grace of the goddess Herja, Urian opens his eyes in a completely new realm. For long years have drifted by since he rescued Ella from that nightmare with the director. Deep within the forest, a colossal beast towers over him. He stands his ground before the monster, perfectly still and razor-focused. The predator stares back, measuring its prey. But suddenly, a terrifying realization hits Urian. He forgot to drink his milk this morning. He groans aloud, frustrated that he hasn't grown an inch in for years. Seriously, what is the average height for a 13-year-old these days? The beast lunges, aiming to crush him with a blow strong enough to shatter bone. But in a blur of motion, the monster is defeated and crashes to the earth. Urian turns, glancing back at the corpse resting among the trees. Looking at the beast sprawled on the fallen leaves, a thought crosses his mind. Would eating deer antlers finally help him hit a growth spurt? The scene shifts to a grand building where a voice calls out to Ella and Urian. The time has finally come. They are old enough to face the magic school's entrance exam. Sister Arlen, the kind nun who raised them, looks at them with concern. She asks if they have truly prepared for this life-changing test. A chorus of orphans wishes them luck. Ella smiles, assuring everyone that thanks to the sister's guidance, they are ready for anything. The sister speaks of destiny. There must be a divine reason the Lord took the director's life that day but spared the two of them. She offers a holy blessing, and they vow to pass the exam no matter the cost. Entering the Magic Academy is the ultimate dream born within these crumbling orphanage walls. But for Urian, the motivation is different. The last 4 years have been a bore, filled with nothing but secret monster hunting in the shadows. Now, he is practically vibrating with excitement. He can't wait for people to look down on him and openly despise him. In his mind, a true fantasy world is built for a protagonist that everyone underestimates. That is the thrill he chases, and he is ready for the drama to begin. At last, they stand before the Royal School of Magic. This prestigious fortress was founded by the Crown to forge warriors capable of defending humanity from the monster threat. Exam day has arrived. A young noble named Chris stands tall, admiring the imposing main gate with an air of arrogance. His eyes scan the crowd, sizing up the competition. He notes that most candidates wear the blue insignia, the mark of nobility, mirroring his own status. Suddenly, his gaze snaps into focus. His eyes widen as he spots a specific candidate in the throng. He spots a rare red insignia pinned to a girl's clothes. Could she be the royal princess? A smirk touches his lips. Clearly, this exam attracts the highest elite. But then, his attention shifts, and confusion clouds his face. He questions if his eyes are deceiving him. Chris spots Urian and Ella approaching, scandalous in their lack of any family badge. Urian sees the judgment coming and starts to chuckle. It's beginning. Chris strides over, voice dripping with disdain. He demands to know how such lowly creatures dare to dream of entering these hallowed grounds. The other nobles swarm like sharks, joining the mockery. One sneers, asking if the pair even knows how to read. Another suggests they should just be grateful to breathe the same air. Urian feels a rush of pure adrenaline. This is exactly the underdog scenario he was praying for. Ella, however, is not amused. She retorts sharply, barely holding back her fury, and turns to storm off. But Urian's voice rings out, calling her back. Ella pauses, her eyes pleading. She advises him to ignore their poison and walk away. She explains that these nobles value status over human life, while Chris watches with a smug, satisfied grin. Urian dashes to catch up with her, begging her to wait. Suddenly, a booming voice cuts through the tension. The 29th entrance exam for the Royal School is officially underway. Headmaster Mages takes the stage. He declares that a student's sacred duty is to shield the innocent using both blade and sorcery. He announces the terms of their trial. They will be tested on their fundamental mastery of swordsmanship and the depth of their magical power. Whispers ripple through the crowd as students eye the commoners, doubting they can even hold a weapon. Then, a blindfolded man steps forward. He is Guyanbi, the instructor for the sword trial. His command is simple. He instructs the candidates to take up the training blades laid out before them. To demonstrate, he doesn't use a sword. With just a flimsy sheet of paper, he slices through the target behind him in one clean motion. The candidates gasp in pure shock at such terrifying precision and range. Guyanbi checks his list and calls out the first name, Tian. A girl with hair as white as snow answers the summons and steps into the spotlight. The instructor positions her, telling her to strike when ready. Nervous, Tian asks if failure to cut the target in a single blow means immediate disqualification. Guyanbi replies with brutal honesty. She won't be disqualified, simply because the masters have zero expectations for them anyway. After all, they are mere children. They should just do their best. Steeling herself, Tian strikes the training dummy with everything she has. Guyanbi notes dryly that she didn't even cut it halfway. He calls the next name. Chris steps up, arrogance fully justified as he cleaves the target cleanly in two. Moments later, a student named Rachel also splits the dummy perfectly. Guyanbi glances down at his list and calls the next name Ella. She steps up, taking her place beside Urian. The boy leans in with a confident whisper, assuring her that cutting the target halfway is child's play for someone with her skills. Ella flashes a fleeting smile, grateful for his unwavering faith in her. She squares her stance before the dummy as the instructor drops his hand to signal the start. But the silence is broken by the sneers of nobles. Disgusted at sharing the testing ground with a lowly commoner, ignoring the insults, Ella inhales deeply. She channels every ounce of her spirit into the coming strike. Memories of 4 years ago flash before her eyes, the bitter taste of failing to protect Urian. Her gaze sharpens, locking onto the target like a predator. With a single, thunderous strike, she shears the entire upper torso of the training dummy clean off. Instructor Galumbi leans forward, his sharp eyes scrutinizing the clean cut. Urian watches with a knowing smirk. Around them, jaws drop as the other candidates stare in sheer disbelief at the devastation. The crowd is paralyzed with shock. How could a mere commoner be the first to completely obliterate the target? Ella grips her sword, declaring that this time, she will be the shield for Urian. Believing he is still too weak to fight, Galumbi remains silent, his mind racing as he analyzes the anomaly. Hidden deep within the center of the dummy was a solid magic wand. Brute strength alone should never have pierced it. To sever the target, one needed to instinctively coat their blade in mana. Yet this girl achieved the impossible unconsciously, a feat that would challenge even a seasoned veteran. Recognizing a diamond in the rough, the instructor calls the next name Urian. A rusted training sword awaits him, embedded in the earth. Urian grips the hilt, signaling he is ready. But when he swings, the blade moves sluggishly, barely managing to leave a pathetic scratch on the dummy's surface. A heavy silence descends over the arena as the instructor and candidates stare at the pitiful result. Then the dam breaks. Mocking laughter erupts from the nobles, jeering that a weak commoner will always remain beneath them. Urian just offers a faint, mysterious smile, knowing the real game is about to start. The stage shifts as a new target is hauled into the center for the magic exam. Instructor Galumbi explains they must strike it using a magical artifact. When a noble admits he cannot cast spells, the instructor calmly steps in. She demonstrates with ease, showing how the tool conjures water even without the user's conscious control. The first challenger is Chris. He raises the wand with arrogance, unleashing a high-pressure jet of water straight at the mark. Bullseye, the attack strikes dead center. The instructor nods in approval while Chris's entourage roars with enthusiastic praise. Galumbi dismisses him and calls for Urian. The boy steps forward without hesitation, buoyed by Ella's confident cheers. He approaches, reaching out to accept the conduit of magic. He grasps the object naturally, but the moment his fingers close around it, the wand shatters into dust. Chris sneers, spitting that a filthy commoner shouldn't even breathe the same air as a noble. Urian stares back, his expression an unreadable mask. Ella cries out his name in panic, but the instructor barks a warning against infighting. Urian raises a hand, calmly assuring her that everything is under control. He bends down, retrieving a jagged shard of the broken tool. As he holds the fragment, a confident smile plays on his lips. He thanks Chris for the attention, declaring that now, the entire audience is captivated. He will take the test with nothing but this broken scrap. His plan, to fail spectacularly and maintain his cover as a weakling. He gathers a tiny speck of mana at the tip of the shard, but the moment he releases the spell, the laws of magic betray him. An immense, terrifying power explodes outward. Urian is blown back by the sheer force of his own attack. Ella, the instructor, and every candidate watch in frozen horror. Urian stares at the smoking debris, speechless. He looks at the cracked shard and realizes he has messed up big time. Confusion ripples through the students. Instructor Golumbi and Ella fix their eyes on Urian, trying to comprehend the absurdity of what just occurred. Chris and his lackeys mutter in disbelief, their brains refusing to process the spectacle. Urian frantically wonders if his mana was too dense. He quickly pivots, shouting that the tool was defective garbage. Chris refuses to accept it, screaming that a lowborn could never damage a magical artifact. However, whispers spread among the nobles that the item must have been old and brittle, just happening to snap in Urian's clumsy hands. Urian bows to Chris, thanking him for the unintended alibi. He looks at the broken wand and loudly complains that it was too frail for his technique. He turns away, determined to keep his true power in the shadows. Suddenly, the headmaster mage's voice booms across the arena, announcing the final trial. They must face a magical bear in the forest, in squads of 3. The headmaster warns that parlor tricks are useless against the jaws of a real monster. Ella grabs Urian, her eyes shining with excitement. She reminds him they are just one step away from their dream. They just need to survive this. Urian nods with enthusiasm as the magical voice begins to list the team assignments. The voice commands students with matching marks to assemble. Ella looks down, noticing a glowing symbol materializing on her chest. A figure approaches, pointing to the identical insignia pinned to his fine clothes. He and his partner beckon Ella to join their formation. The surrounding nobles erupt in outrage of all people. A commoner has been paired with the royal princess's team. Urian watched with a warm smile as Ella's team finally came together. She waved goodbye, her eyes burning with determination, promising to give this exam everything she had. He waved back, wishing the favor of the gods upon her. But as the crowd thinned, a cold realization struck him. He was still standing alone, and no team mark had appeared on his hand. A knot of anxiety tightened in his chest. Was he destined to fail before he even started? Just as despair crept in, two shadows approached, filling the empty slots of his unassigned team. One of them stepped forward, practically vibrating with energy. He locked eyes with the protagonist, eager to confirm if he was standing before the one and only Urian. "I'm Rishal," the boy beamed, admitting he'd been watching Urian's performance closely during the previous tests. Beside him, the girl offered a quiet, hesitant introduction. Her name was Tien. Urian let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He finally had a squad. But across the courtyard, a pair of nobles watched the ragtag group form, their lips curling into malicious sneers. The aristocrats whispered venomously to one another, a filthy commoner paired with Rishal. In their eyes, fate had stitched together the worst possible combination in the Academy's history. They ruthlessly mocked Rishal, the eternal failure taking the exam for the 4th time. Then, their cruel gaze shifted to Tien, branding her with a title worse than death, the abandoned noble. Laughter erupted as they ridiculed this circus of misfits. Urian glared back, his confusion mixing with irritation. He couldn't understand why these strangers took such joy in their belittlement. A perennial failure and a disgraced aristocrat, that was his hand. The noble clique howled with laughter, treating Urian's predicament like the comedy of the year. Yet, Urian didn't flinch. He simply offered a serene smile and asked, "Can't we just pass the test?" The laughter died in their throats as his teammates stared, stunned by his unshakable calm. A grin broke across Rishal's face. He stepped closer, clapping Urian on the shoulder. "You're exactly the kind of guy I thought you were," he declared. "My instincts never lie." He looked at Urian with genuine admiration. That casual confidence in the face of noble arrogance was a strength Rishal had spent years wishing he possessed. "We're going to pass this, no matter what," Rishal announced, his enthusiasm almost blinding. But beside them, Tien's eyes remained downcast. her voice trembling as she questioned if victory was even possible. Urian's smile faltered slightly. He confessed that his performance in the magic and swordsmanship rounds had been lackluster. Flashbacks of his disastrous attempts played in his mind like a nightmare reel. The gravity of the situation hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't just done poorly, he had completely failed the swordsmanship exam. And the magic exam? Another total failure. How was he even allowed in this final round after 2 zeros? He questioned the academy's system, but then Ella's encouraging voice echoed in his memory, grounding him. Ice water flooded his veins. If he failed here, his dream of graduating alongside Ella would shatter into 1,000 pieces. Panic began to claw at his throat. Rishal stepped in, a veteran of failure. "Don't panic," he assured him. "This is my 4th year. I know the rules inside out. You can tank the first 2 exams and still survive." "The monster hunt is the jackpot," Rishal revealed, his eyes gleaming. "The points here are weighted differently. If we combine our strengths, we can turn this sinking ship around." Hope reignited in Urian's chest. He could still stand by Ella's side. But as they stepped into the dense, suffocating forest, reality prepared to crush that optimism into dust. Chaos erupted. The team sprinted for their lives as a massive beast tore through the underbrush. "Tien, do something," Rishal screamed. "You're a noble, aren't you? Use your magic." A blinding flash sliced through the trees, forcing the group to skid to a halt. Rishal panted, wiping sweat from his brow. "This test," he gasped, "is every bit as insane as I remembered." Urian locked eyes with the threat of magical bear towering over them. He knew the score. To enter the academy, this beast had to be stopped. There was no other way. But doubt gnawed at him. With these two by his side, impossible. If he were alone, he could slaughter 100 of these creatures without breaking a sweat. But he had to maintain his cover. "We're done for," Rishal groaned. But Tien clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. "No," she whispered, her voice hardening. "This is my last chance. I absolutely cannot fail." Desperation sharpened her mind. "We don't need to kill it," she proposed urgently. "We just need to secure the monster's vital fang." "She's right," Rishal agreed, realizing their physical weakness made a direct assault suicide. "We focus on the objective." Suddenly, a light bulb flickered on behind his eyes. "Is that even feasible?" Urian asked, skeptical. Rishal grinned, a cunning expression taking over his face. "Oh, it is. And I know exactly how to pull it off." "Listen close," Rishal whispered. "The magical bear always keeps its fangs exposed. If you follow my lead, we can snatch the prize right out of its mouth without needing to slay the beast." He chuckled nervously. "We actually got lucky. Out of all the horrors in this forest, the bear is the simplest puzzle to solve." He shoved a strange substance into Tien's hands. "Smear this all over yourself," he ordered. Tien stared at the object, repulsed and confused. What is this?" "Hunting essence," Rishal revealed. "It'll drive the monster into a blind rage. While it's distracted trying to devour the scent, we smashed the fangs." Tien stood frozen, the color draining from her face. "You want to use me as live bait?" She stammered. "That's not a plan. That's a death sentence." "Trust me," Rishal snapped, shattering the capsule before she could protest. "Once that bear starts feeding, it ignores everything else. It's foolproof." But Tien looked ready to faint. Rishal moved to shove her forward, but an iron grip clamped down on his wrist. Urian stopped him cold, his eyes dark with warning. "Are you out of your mind?" Urian growled low. "You're really going to feed her to the beast?" Rishal spun around, his desperation turning ugly. "Do you want to pass or not?" Rishal hissed, ripping his arm free. "Don't you want to stand beside your sister? Sometimes, the only way up is to take a massive risk." He glared at Urian, chest heaving. "If you're so righteous, tell me, what's your brilliant plan to stop a monster that outclasses us?" "We're commoners, damn it," he shouted, his voice cracking. "We weren't born with mana like them. We're dirt. The only way we survive is by using every dirty trick in the book." His logic was twisted by fear. It's a numbers game. If 2 of us pass by sacrificing 1 noble, that's a victory. That's survival. He pointed a shaking finger at Tien. "She's an abandoned noble anyway. Nobody cares about her. She's the perfect disposable bait." The cruel words triggered a landslide in Tien's mind. She remembered the whispers, the sneers, being compared to her prodigy brother, Ricky. Are you sure she's even related to him? The shame of the Count's family. The old insults echoed loudly until Urian's voice sliced through the trauma. It doesn't matter, he declared firmly. Abandoned, ignored, none of that defines you. Urian stepped forward, an aura of quiet power building around him. Because for everyone, he vowed, his eyes blazing, there comes a moment to step out of the shadows and shine. He roars that no one has the right to carelessly decide another person's worth. Rachel recoils, clearly irritated by his defiance. Suddenly, he splashes the hunting essence all over Yurin and Tian. He screams for Yurin to face the beast alongside her. The massive bear locks eyes on its new, scent-soaked prey. The nightmare charges. The ground shakes as the creature thunders toward them. Tian freezes, staring helplessly at the approaching death. Yurin simply turns to face the beast, a cocky smirk playing on his lips. Tian screams in terror, averting her eyes from the inevitable. Yurin observes the chaos with chilling calm. No, she has to fight. Tian resolves to take this monster down herself. The beast lunges, jaws gaping wide to swallow them whole. She raises her weapon, trembling. But in her mind, a cold voice echoes, "You are a disgrace to this family." Tian grits her teeth against the doubt. Suddenly, Yurin conjures a shimmering shield, blocking the creature's attack. She screams, "I am a noble too." She unleashes a desperate sword spell. It strikes the beast head-on. Tian grins at her spirit, but the dust clears. The monster remains completely unharmed. The realization crushes her. She didn't even leave a scratch. Yurin notes the beast's toughness just as Tian breaks down, begging him to get her out of there. He looks at her, feigning confusion. Is the air getting chilly? He asks, before adding a warning, "Brace yourself. The landing might sting." He casually explains that he's mastered launching people into the sky, but safe landings? He hasn't learned that part yet. With a wink, he says, "Still better than dying, right?" Boom. He blasts her straight upwards into the safety of the sky. He shouts after her, "Even if you've been discarded, your time to shine will come." Soaring through the clouds, Tian whispers a thank you for the borrowed courage. The monster snaps at empty air. Tian prays Yurin escaped in time. But gravity takes hold, and she is thrown a massive distance away. She braces for impact, but Yurin is already there, catching her effortlessly. He looks down and quips, "Well, seems your time to shine has already passed." He turns his attention to the raging bear. That four-eyed coward ran off to avoid the mess, he tells the beast. Thanks to him running, I could save the child, Yurin muses. His expression darkens. Now, I'm going to collect the loot. He launches his attack. The strike connects with devastating force. Yurin wonders aloud if he should set a trap for when Glasses returns asking where he went. Hidden in the shadows, Rachel watches the impossible display, absolutely stunned. Flashback, tensions rise in the forest. A student confronts a group of commoners, who glare back at the nobles with pure hatred. Chris, flanked by the princess and Ella, steps forward. Swords and staves are meant for monsters, he declares sternly, not fellow students. A commoner sneers, offering to help a girl in the noble group pass the exam. Chris scoffs, only the headmaster decides who passes or fails. Who are you to offer that? The truth comes out. They plan to fail the nobles so they can take their spots. Another commoner hisses, scolding him for spilling the plan. Chris realizes the gravity of the situation. The lower class has united against them. The student shouts back, blaming the nobles for rigging the system so everyone fails but them. He mocks the girl again, taunting the group. Do you really think you can beat me with dead weight like her on your team? The commoner leader smirks. Oh, we won't be the ones defeating you. His partner tries to shut him up, but it's too late. Ignoring the warning, he laughs maniacally. The monsters will do our dirty work. We're using the bear to wipe out the nobility. Chris nods grimly. It all makes sense now. The sudden surge of lower-class participants was a coordinated ambush. The princess eyes them coldly. So, you knew the bear is enraged by that specific scent. She deduces. As royalty, her heart breaks. Future protectors of the realm, using monsters to kill their own citizens. She says, it is absolutely shameful. She snaps her fingers. "Ricky, capture them all. I want them alive." Her voice rings with authority. The royal family will investigate exactly who manipulated this test and endangered their peers. Ricky steps forward, blade drawn. He wastes no time, unleashing a swift strike against the commoner students. The blow sends the young men reeling. Ricky stares them down like a statue. Desperate, one student screams, "Spray it, now." They fling the monster-tracting liquid at Ricky, but suddenly the droplets freeze in midair, floating harmlessly around him. "What?" A commoner gasps. The blood dries instantly before it can touch him. The princess extends a hand. "Surrender, it's over." "Your plan has failed," she declares. Ella watches from the side, murmuring, "Looks like I don't need to lift a finger." The commoner leader's eyes go wide with panic. "No, this is our only chance. We won't get another." He screams. His friend warns him that capture means the end, but he doesn't care. He draws his sword, roaring for everyone to keep fighting. The students charge. The princess is attacked, wondering just how far these desperate souls will go. Suddenly, the ground shakes, for massive bear monsters burst from the forest line. Ella's eyes narrow. Great, now there are 4 of them. She wonders if these kids stand a ghost of a chance. A commoner shouts defiance, but Ricky simply whispers a single word, "Wind." Instantly, magic erupts. A swirling barrier of wind rises, separating the terrified students from the raging beasts. The lower-class boys look up in shock. Ella warns them to stay back, but Ricky holds his ground. "Even if you are enemies," he declares, "you are still citizens of this kingdom." The commoner ringleader hung bound to a tree, awaiting his judgment in the forest clearing. Ricky stepped forward, a cold realization dawning in his eyes as he recognized the man's connection to the girl from earlier. The captive student smirked, a twisted grin spreading across his face as he asked if Ricky had finally figured it out. The truth hit Ricky like a physical blow. Both the brother and sister had been used as bait. The prisoner shouted that the weaklings were gone, laughing that the younger siblings were trash compared to the elites standing here. His laughter turned manic as he declared that the bears had likely already torn them to shreds. By now, if fate was kind, perhaps one of them was still drawing breath. The princess wasted no time, commanding Ricky to hunt down their trail immediately before the scent went cold. Ella's heart lurched, and she moved to follow him. But the princess's voice cut through the air like a whip, ordering her to halt. Desperation flooded Ella's voice as she turned and demanded to know why. She screamed that her own brother was out there facing death alone. The princess's expression softened with empathy, knowing the stinging pain of threatened family. But her logic remained ironclad. She stated that the girl would only be a liability in this chaos. The captive student added fuel to the fire, sneering that if his plan worked, the scene of the incident would be a bloody butchery by now. The scent of fresh blood would summon every beast in the forest, creating a swarm of death impossible to predict or count. The princess acknowledged that Ricky possessed the elite skills to slaughter them all, but even a genius swordsman would struggle to fight a horde while guarding a burden. She implored Ella to have faith in him and wait by her side. Trembling, Ella gripped her sword until her knuckles turned white, whispering Urin's name like a prayer. Deep in the forest, Ricky moved like a gale, tearing through the underbrush at breakneck speed. He skidded to a halt, finding Tien collapsed on the cold earth. Suddenly, his instinct screamed of danger. He leaped backward, barely evading a crushing blow from a mysterious helmeted figure. The stranger tilted his head, confused why Ricky wasn't the four-eyed guy he expected. Ricky's gaze fell on the attacker's dark presence, and he realized a third party was involved. Tien remained motionless on the ground, fueling Ricky's fury. He turned to the enemy, demanding to know how he dared touch her, and lunged forward with killing intent. Shock rippled through Ricky. His strike had been blocked cold. The helmeted warrior remarked casually that surprise attacks were risky business. He asked if Ricky really thought he could hurt his little sister and walk away from this unscathed. The helmeted man paused, confused, asking if Ricky was supposed to be the younger sister. He tried to de-escalate, asking Ricky to calm down and listen to the misunderstanding. But Ricky was done talking. He whispered a single invocation to the wind. The helmeted man watched as the magic materialized in the air. A razor-sharp gust launched at him with devastating force. The young man noted the lethal power, admitting that was dangerous, and nearly shattered his helmet. Seeing Ricky create a wind barrier around Tien, the stranger realized his mistake. He called Ricky a peasant, then corrected himself, thanking him and noting that Ricky wasn't one of the enemy remnants. Impressed that the stranger dodged his attacks twice, Ricky decided to grant him the honor of a formal introduction. He announced himself as Ricky, the eldest heir of the Viscount family that serves the wind spirit. The other young man responded simply, Yurin Sunong. Ricky repeated the name Yurin Sunong, testing its weight, and since Yurin claimed innocence, he posed one crucial question. He demanded to know exactly who had left his sister in such a sorry state. Yurin turned, asking if he meant the girl. A memory flashed in his mind of himself holding the unconscious Tien. Yurin pointed a finger at his own chest and asked, "Me?" He bluntly admitted he was the one who knocked her out. That was the wrong answer. Ricky cut him off, vowing to shatter that helmet into dust first. Yurin sighed, noting that clearing up misunderstandings was never easy. He mentioned he had urgent business to attend to. He exploded into motion, dashing away and shouting that they would talk more calmly next time. Ricky's eyes widened, analyzing the terrifying speed of his retreat. Judging by his footwork, the stranger was at least a mid-tier knight. Yet Ricky pushed his limits, intercepting the path and claiming he had already read every move. He prepared a finishing strike, declaring that his sword was faster than the stranger's legs. The blade slashed through, and for a second, Ricky thought he connected. But he realized he had struck nothing but air. His adversary had vanished. Panic set in as he scanned the clearing for a target. He looked up, but it was too late. Yurin appeared from behind, pinning him to the dirt before he could react. The helmeted young man asked if Ricky enjoyed fighting his afterimage. Just then, a magical announcement declared the 29th entrance exam officially over. A report came in stating there was an unfortunate incident, but the princess had apprehended the culprits and the royal investigation team was taking over the case. In the faculty war room, the headmage commended the instructors, but one dissenter sneered at the quality of this year's students. He slammed the year as a total failure, blaming the unruly commoners and lower class for polluting the pool. Another instructor scolded him, reminding him that the Royal Magic Academy did not judge based on social status. But the elitist shouted back that it was a lie, insisting the academy existed solely to fulfill the glory of the nobility. A colleague warned him not to invoke her father's name, but the headmage cut the bickering short, ordering the man to read the final rankings. The man reported that 29 candidates had passed and proceeded to list the top 10 elites. The candidates surged toward the results board to check their fate. Princess Rudy was announced as the indisputable first place. Ricky secured second place, but he found Yurin Sunong's absence strange. A monster like that couldn't have failed. Jade celebrated her third-place victory, thinking of her mother's pride. Meanwhile, the sisters Seiya and Mu took fourth and fifth, whispering among themselves about the hidden criteria of the evaluation. Ella celebrates securing sixth place, but her eyes scan the crowd, wondering where Urian has disappeared to. Meanwhile, Chris, sitting in seventh, scoffs and loudly accuses a commoner girl of cheating to surpass him. Rise, the eighth-place finisher, looks visibly annoyed that he even bothered to take the test, threatening to beat someone into a pulp just to vent his frustration. In ninth place, Heine can barely contain her excitement, her eyes sparkling as she dreams of befriending the princess who graces them with her presence. Goliath, ranked 10th, decides to steer clear of the long-haired student, sensing a dangerous personality. Nearby, Tiana lets out a sigh of relief, seeing she barely scraped by in 24th place. Ella beams with pride at her brother's second-place ranking, then frantically searches the list for Urian's name. Urian cracks a confident smile, certain of his success. But then, cold sweat begins to bead on his forehead. The realization hits him like a physical blow he failed. Doubt creeps in as he wonders if he was to relax during the trials. Despite being certain he had secured the quest item, Ella rushes to his side, breathless. She mentions hearing rumors about a trap set for him, but is just relieved to see he is physically unharmed. She admits she wanted to abandon the test to help him immediately, but Urian quickly reassures her, apologizing for becoming a source of worry. Pushing his disappointment aside, he congratulates her on achieving 6th place, listing the prestigious benefits of the top 10. Ella shakes her head, calling it sheer luck, and wishes for that same luck next year. Urian blinks in confusion, his mind racing as he asks her to repeat what she just said. Ella announces firmly that she won't be enrolling this term. She suggests they enter together next year, reminding him that their promise was to attend the academy side by side. Suddenly, Chris appears, cackling like a hyena. "That's perfect," he jeers. "Now you two losers can fail together." His laughter echoes obnoxiously. Ella and Urian glare at him in silence. Nearby, a student with strawberry blonde hair observes the scene intently. Moments later, Chris resumes his mocking laughter. Urian clenches his fist, debating whether to punch Chris right here and now. Meanwhile, inside the faculty meeting room, Professor just slams her hand on the table, screaming that she cannot accept these results. Professor Mages comments dryly that the results were exactly as expected. Just snaps back, clarifying she isn't talking about the top 10, but the absurdity of candidate Urian failing. An assistant nervously explains the board's logic. Although Urian is Ella's brother and delivered the item, it appears he didn't secure it alone. Another instructor adds that compared to his prodigious sister, Urian's swordsmanship is laughably weak. Just stands her ground, eyes blazing. She insists that candidate Urian possesses talent that defies their standard measurements. Back in the hall, Chris continues to mock Urian's failure, performing an exaggerated victory dance while shouting insults. The humiliation spectacle drags on. Urian simply stares at him with a bemused smile, refusing to break. Suddenly, an assistant bursts into the hall, breathless, and announces an emergency statement from the board. The hall goes silent as he informs them that one additional candidate will be admitted, expanding the class to 31 students. The name of the special admission for the magic specialization is Urian. The crowd erupts in shock, a commoner receiving a special waiver. Ella cheers, thrilled that they can finally enroll together, but Urian stands there frozen, struggling to comprehend how the situation flipped so quickly. Flashback to the meeting room. Jihad argued fiercely, stating that rejecting Urian was a mistake because his potential is bottomless. She reveals the truth. He didn't just have enough magic power to damage the measuring device. He managed to instantly suppress that explosive power to prevent a catastrophe, demonstrating a level of meticulous control that veterans strive for. Ja concludes her defense with a warning. Letting a talent like Urian slip away would be a monumental loss for the entire kingdom. Professor Mages counters coldly, pointing out that without the bear monster intervention, Urian would have died due to his lack of combat experience. Ja fires back instantly, arguing that the academy exists precisely to teach that experience, and predicts Urian could easily surpass the current top-ranked students. Mages sneers, questioning whether a lowly commoner truly deserves to walk these hallowed halls. Gia's expression turns icy. She replies that the only person undeserving of being here is a teacher, who blatantly discriminates against a student based on status. The director intervenes, stating that the magic school exists to forge warriors, and status is irrelevant. He adds that he trusts Professor Ja, one of the few heroic mages in the country. Given how highly a hero praises this student, the director decides it would be foolish to squander such potential. Using his supreme authority, the director approves Urian as a special admission student for the magic course. However, he imposes one strict condition. If Urian fails to produce immediate results, he will be expelled without hesitation. Back in the present, Urian murmurs a name under his breath. He places a hand on his own head, estimating the height of the mysterious figure who saved him. Suddenly, the pieces click into place. He recalls the bear monster test and the masked figure who carried Shin to safety. His eyes widen in discovery. Across the room, Shin watches Urian and Ella from a distance, his gaze unreadable. Urian turns to a training dummy and executes a perfect strike with his wooden sword. Knocking it down, Shin watches from afar, thinking, there's no way he is just a beginner. Ella asks what that move was, amazed. Urian plays dumb, shrugging and saying he has no idea how he did it. The next day, News spreads like wildfire that the top 10 and the special admission student are all in the advanced class. Outside the door, Ella admits she's nervous, but Urian tells her to stay calm. They push the doors open to reveal a massive lecture hall, already buzzing with the Academy's elite. The atmosphere is heavy. Princess Rudy, ranked first, sits regally next to the second-ranked prodigy, Ricky. Meanwhile, Sia, ranked fourth, is discussing something with Mu, the fifth. Jade, ranked third, looks surprised to see them, while Haina gazes at the princess with pure adoration. Ella, ranked sixth, nervously asks where they should sit. Urian looks around at the chaotic social hierarchy and feels like he's back in elementary school. He contemplates the state of education in this realm of sorcery, surmising it must be far more primitive than the modern schooling of his past life. Suddenly, a shadow looms. Rizzo, the eighth-ranked student, materializes behind them, barking orders to clear the path like a tyrant. Ella agrees, stepping aside to avoid trouble, while Urian analyzes the aggressor, wondering if he is the class bully. But Chris stands his ground, calling out to Rizzo with defiance. The seventh-ranked student challenges the latecomer's attitude. Rizzo simply sneers, replying with a dismissive, "So what?" Chris snaps back, scolding him for arriving after a mere commoner when he should be a beacon of noble excellence. Rizzo repeats his taunt, aggressive and unyielding. "So what?" Chris bows with mock politeness, reminding him that rank 7 outclasses rank 8. With a cold smile, he warns Rizzo, "Do not be late again." Rizzo stares him down, the silence deafening. He asks if Chris truly believes a meaningless number makes him the stronger mudge. Stepping into his personal space, Rizzo hisses that a written test cannot measure true power, practically begging for a duel right there in the classroom. Ella whispers frantically that a fight is brewing, but Urian remains calm, guiding her to the empty seats away from the drama. Goliath comments on the rising tension, while Haina observes silently. Meanwhile, Jade watches the entire spectacle from the front row with keen interest. As she settles in, Ella marvels at the luxury, noting she has never sat in such a soft chair. Urian agrees, just as Jade turns to face them. Ella politely introduces herself, but Jade waves it off, insisting that formalities are unnecessary among classmates. He turns to Urian, proclaiming it incredible for a commoner to breach the advanced class, calling it a genuine honor to study alongside him. He proposes they cast aside status and become friends. Urian accepts the handshake. Jade asks if he is Urian, Ella's brother, and the boy confirms, clarifying they are siblings by bond, not blood. This revelation seems to catch Jade off guard. Recovering quickly, he praises Ella's exquisite swordsmanship, declaring her a perfect role model who earned her place in the advanced class by right of strength. He turns his gaze to the brother, saying he looks forward to witnessing Urian's hidden potential. Urian returns the look with a subtle, mysterious smile. Suddenly, chaos erupts among the other students. The school bell rings, cutting the tension and signaling the end of the first day's activities. As they traverse the courtyard, Ella remarks that the first day was surprisingly uneventful. She notes that the real hell begins tomorrow. Turning to Urian, her eyes sparkle with realization. They have finally arrived at the Magic Academy. She suggests they enjoy their freedom until the other siblings arrive. Urian agrees, unaware that two upperclassmen are watching them from the shadows like predators. One senior scoffs, lamenting that the school's prestigious standards have plummeted to the point of admitting filth into the advanced class, an occurrence unthinkable in his era. Urian spots the second-year students approaching. The seniors block their path, demanding a proper greeting. Urian and Ella bow with respectful precision. But it is not enough. The stronger senior orders them to strip off their uniforms immediately. He claims it is blasphemy for a commoner to wear the same crest as a noble. Ella is confused, but the upperclassman grabs Urian by the vest, commanding him to obey. He glares at the boy with fury, then forcibly rips the vest from Urian's shoulders. But suddenly, his arms tremble. He can barely hold the garment, complaining that it is impossibly heavy. Urian simply smiles, his expression unreadable as he casually addresses the struggling bully as Sunbae. The upperclassman looks back in confusion, realizing the boy has already vanished. Suddenly, Jade steps in, declaring that this academy has no room for status discrimination. As Ella helps place the heavy vest back over Urian's head, the boy comments that the situation is quite amusing. Jade steps forward, proclaiming that the senior's bullying brings dishonor to the school. The other upperclassman snaps back, scolding Jade for lecturing his elders. Ella reacts on instinct. She strikes out at the stronger senior, but he roars back, yelling that she must learn her place. Jade screams her name in warning, but it is too late. She begins to fall in slow motion. Urian watches the scene, paralyzed by the sudden violence. As he stares at the attacker, the air grows heavy. Urian's eyes are no longer human. They are filled with a pure, devastating rage. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, Hywin, the resident hero, sits in stoic silence. Magus thanks her for taking charge of the advanced class, but she retorts dryly that she only accepted out of sheer boredom. With her trademark bluntness, she tells him to lighten up. Magus turns serious, pointing out that this year's class is destined to be one of the most significant in history. Curious, Hywin asks for clarification. Magus confirms he speaks of the siblings, recalling how they were admitted as special students despite the noble's fierce opposition. He explains his reasoning, citing the sisters' admission. She instinctively infused mana into her blade, a feat of genius despite her common blood. Hywin agrees that Ella is a prodigy who would have been a guaranteed acceptance had she been born noble, but she notes the same cannot be said for the brother. Magus recalls the insistence on the boy's latent talent, even though, unlike his sister, Urian has proven absolutely nothing. Hywin concludes that he must have received the special title purely because of the significance Magus mentioned earlier. Magus looks her in the eye and asks a chilling question. Does she believe the school's current system is truly working? He explains that the sanctuary should nurture talent regardless of bloodline, but it has become a mere stepping stone for arrogant nobles, dooming the entire kingdom to inevitable ruin. I was forged only for war, Heywan admits, her voice steady. But I trust your judgment with my life. Principal Ma spins around, returning to the subject of true potential. He jabs a finger toward the window. Look there. Those siblings are being crushed like insects. Someone needs to intervene. Patience, Heywan counsels, her eyes narrowing. Let us observe a little longer. Her gaze sharpens like a blade. I am curious to understand the significance you speak of. Chaos erupts in the courtyard. An upperclassman demands submission before driving a heavy fist into Ella's face. Jade screams her name in horror. The impact sends Ella crumbling to the cold ground. Urian watches the scene, his eyes dead calm, analyzing every frame. Jade drops into a combat stance, barking orders. Urian, get Ella to the infirmary, now. I'll drag your carcass to the student council. Jade roars, but the bully sneers, pointing to his badge. Know your place, trash, we are second years. Suddenly, the bully freezes. He stares at his own hand holding nothing but a torn button. How did Urian slip away? He hadn't even loosened his grip. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Urian is already standing clear, cradling Ella safely in his arms. Urian's heart hammers against his ribs like a war drum. He replays the image of that fist striking his sister. He saw it all, the mana-infused knuckles meant to shatter bone. With Ella safe in his embrace, he turns to face the enemy. There's no hesitation. Jade seizes the opportunity. He clamps down on the attacker's wrist. The bully panics, yanking desperately to break the hold. Shock ripples through the attacker. How is this shrimp so strong? He struggles wildly, but Jade is barely holding on. Teeth grit, the upperclassman fights against the restraint. Nigel, use magic, the bully screams, desperate to save face. Nigel draws his wand to restore his leader's dignity, but Jade shouts, wait. Suddenly, a cold command cuts through the air. Urian orders the boy to back down for using spells on school grounds. Jade stares, dumbfounded. Urian is still standing there. Gold light floods from Urian's hands, a healing skill activating instantly. She is already taken care of, he tells Jade calmly, his voice dropping an octave. I will handle the rest. Jade freezes, wand trembling in his grip. High above in the tower, the mages and Heywan watch the drama unfold in suffocating silence. Ella's eyes flutter open, "Are you all right?" Urian asks gently. "Don't force yourself up." He stands, preparing to unveil his first strategy, the art of concealing strength. But then, sudden confusion washes over Urian. Before his eyes, Jade and the two bullies are dancing together. Up in the office, Haewon finally breaks the silence. "Did you admit him as a special student because you knew?" she asks sharply. Down below, Ella blinks, dazed. "Brother, what is happening?" Jade rushes over, eyes wide with shock. How is she completely recovered already?" "I just healed her." Urian shrugs. "Healing?" Jade repeats, his brain stalling in disbelief. A harsh reality check of this world flashes across the screen. Common sense dictates. Healing magic fixes injuries, yes. But even for masters, it takes 5 to 15 minutes of intense concentration. The lesson is clear. Instant regeneration is impossible. It defies the laws of magic. The realization hits Urian like a brick. In this world, there's no such thing as an instant heal. Worthy of a special admission, Jade marvels, cursing his own weakness. Meanwhile, Haewon sighs, rubbing her temples. That is quite enough. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk she materializes instantly in the center of the chaos. Fights between students, she declares, her aura crushing the tension, are strictly forbidden. Urian and Ella spin around, a chill running down their spines. They were being watched. With a serious expression, Haewon faces them. "My," she murmurs, scanning their faces. "We have quite the crop of interesting anomalies this year." She waves a hand dismissively. "Disperse. Since it is the entrance ceremony, I will pretend this never happened." The upperclassman bows, trembling, but mutters a vow of vengeance against the freshman as he retreats. Later, inside the dorms, Urian's jaw drops. A private room, a real bed. "Ella, look at this paradise." He laughs, the sound bubbling up from pure relief. He can't stop chuckling. "Urian," Ella interrupts, her voice trembling slightly. "I had no idea. I didn't know you possessed the talent for a complete instant heal." "To be honest," Urian admits, scratching his cheek, "I didn't realize it was such an incredible feat either." Ella looks down. "With power like that, you'll be recruited by the elites. You'll soar to places I can't reach. We will drift apart." "Ella." He calls her name firmly, locking eyes with her. She clenches her fist. "No, I won't let that happen. I don't intend to lose to you, brother." Her eyes burn with determination. "I will stand by your side. I am in the advanced class too, remember? We support each other. Until the end," she suggests. Urian nods, a smile touching his lips. The next morning, the classroom buzzes as the door slides open. "Greetings," Haewon announces, standing tall at the podium. "I hope we can all get along." Hyena and Goliath gasp in unison. Their eyes nearly pop out. The resident hero herself is teaching the advanced class? "That's the woman from yesterday," Ella whispers frantically. Urian tilts his head. "Resident hero? What does that title even mean?" "I trust you enjoyed your private suites," Haewon says smoothly. "Understand this, ordinary students with no merit. They receive no such privileges." Her voice turns cold. "The food, the uniforms, the facilities, these are benefits for the elite. Survive in the advanced class until graduation, and you will live a life others only dream of." She pauses, her eyes glinting dangerously. "But be warned, this system includes demotion." Instructor Haewon lays down the law immediately. Even though they pass the entrance exam, failure is not an option. Low grades mean instant demotion to the common class. Then, she drops a bombshell that silences the room. The survival rate of last year's advanced class was exactly 0. While others tremble at the news, Urian breaks into a twisted smile. The danger doesn't scare him, it thrills him. Chalk strikes the board as Haewon begins the first lesson. But what she writes isn't a spell, it's something that leaves Urian completely stunned. A nervous chuckle escapes him. Fate might be playing a joke. Because this start is almost asterisk to asterisk easy. In the advanced class, evaluation is absolute. The student count is never static. Unlike the commoners, the elites here receive resources and support that regular students can only dream of. Graduation is a golden ticket. It guarantees a prestigious career and a life of luxury the moment they step out the doors. But there is no safety net. One slip in grades means immediate expulsion to the regular class, stripping them of all honor and privilege. It is a brutal system. That is why last year, not a single soul survived the curriculum to graduate. The question hangs in the air. Can our protagonist, Urian, break the curse? Instructor Haiwan turns to the blackboard. The first lesson begins now. Urian stares in disbelief at the scribbles. Beside him, Chris squints, trying to comprehend the impossible. Is that mathematics? Haiwan watches their confusion in silence. Chris finally breaks the tension, raising a hand to ask the question on everyone's mind. The young noble voices his doubt. They are here to master the arcane arts, so why are they wasting time on numbers? Haiwan doesn't answer directly. Instead, she counters with a question that cuts deep. Why do you seek to wield magic? Chris puffs out his chest. He wants to become a supreme sorcerer to serve the kingdom. But Haiwan shatters his worldview. You don't need mana to be strong. Knowledge is true power, she declares. Nigel chimes in, realizing the truth intellect allows one to transcend their natural limits. Urian watches intently. To prove her point, Haiwan summons a small, flickering flame on her fingertip. Tell me, how do I make this grow? Chris answers confidently, simple, inject more mana. Haiwan nods. It is the textbook answer. Correct, she says. In a normal situation, pouring in magical energy is the standard solution. Chris smirks, satisfied with his knowledge. But Haiwan's eyes narrow. What if your mana runs dry? She shifts her gaze to the girl with the tied-up hair. Ella suggests relying on support spells from allies, a logical thought, but Haiwan shakes her head. Wrong. The tiny flame floats toward the ceiling chandelier. There's a superior path, Haiwan announces. She raises her other hand, weaving a different spell. The answer is wind. Suddenly, the small flame erupts into a massive fire tornado. The students gasp, paralyzed by the sheer scale of the inferno. Ella stares in awe as the wind feeds the flames. Urian nods to himself. It's basic chemistry, a combustion reaction. Haiwan faces the trembling class. This is the power of knowledge, she lectures. Blindly chasing mana capacity is a fool's errand. From today on, you'll learn how the world works. She slaps a stack of papers on the desk. Pop quiz. Instantly, the room falls deathly silent. Quills scratch frantically against parchment. Time ticks by until Haiwan calls for pens down. She scans the answers with a critical eye. Only 3 of you achieved a perfect score, she announces. Chris gulps, sweating bullets, because he definitely guessed on those last 2 questions. First, Haiwan calls out, Princess Rudy. Ella cheers for her friend, not surprised by the royal's brilliance. Second, Riso. Chris blinks in shock. He didn't expect that. Seeing his reaction, Tian leans in, noticing the cold sweat rolling down the noble's face. Don't tell me you missed one, she teases sharply. For a high-ranking noble who crushed the entrance exam, that would be embarrassing. She shrugs with calculated indifference. Rankings change every month anyway. It's not a big deal to me. I just hope you don't fall behind tomorrow. Her words leave Chris speechless. Meanwhile, Haiwan pauses dramatically before revealing the final perfect score. The name rings out clearly, Urian. Princess Rudy, Sia, and Ricky freeze. Chris looks like he's seen a ghost. A commoner beat him. Ella pumps her fist while a faint, knowing smile plays on Urian's lips. Of course he aced it. In his past life, he was a student in South Korea, surviving the hellish battlefield of competitive private education. These magical formulas, they are child's play. He could solve these equations in his head without breaking a sweat. In this academy, he is the apex predator of intellect. Goliath, sitting nearby, grunts in approval. Impressive result. The young noble clenches his fist, swearing he won't lose to a commoner again. With the test over, Haiwan smiles. Now, for your reward. She produces a handful of gleaming insignias. With a flick of her wrist, she tosses them into the air. The emblems float magically to each student, landing gently on their chests. Wear them, she orders. These are your proof of status. With this, the academy is your oyster. You now have access to unrestricted facilities and the highest tier of dining, reserved only for the elite. Later, in the dining hall, Urian points to the feast. Real meat. Ella takes a bite, and her eyes sparkle as the flavor explodes. It melts. The advanced class is heaven. I'm never leaving, she declares between bites. I want to stay in this paradise forever. Urian nods, his expression serious. We can, he replies. But to keep this paradise, we have to fight for it. The real test starts now. The instructor smiled, but her eyes were cold. I hope you enjoyed that meal, she announced, because it might be your last moment of peace. Monster hunting class starts now. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. This wasn't a morning warm-up. She made it crystal clear. Fail here, and your grades won't just drop. You'll be kicked out of the elite class entirely. Urian whispered a warning to his team, but Ella didn't flinch. She vowed to take the top spot. However, the instructor scoffed. They were just fledglings, far too green to face the darkness alone. The instructor smirked. She had a surprise prepared. The doors swung open. Reinforcements had arrived. 2 upperclassmen stepped in, radiating arrogance. Nigel smirked, eyes scanning the room for his adorable little juniors. Urian quickly analyzed the situation. This wasn't a solo mission. Their evaluation depended on teamwork. Playing nice was the only option for now. The blonde senior stepped forward, his presence looming over them. He drilled the point home. Without perfect coordination, this test was a guaranteed failure. Then came the threat. One wrong move, one act of defiance, and he'd destroy their academic future. We can be your guardian angels, he sneered, or the demons that end you. Goliath trembled, turning to his teammates. He swallowed his pride, begging them to play along. Fairness didn't matter. Staying in the advanced class was worth any humiliation. It's unfair, I know, Goliath whispered, desperation in his eyes. But I have to stay in this class, whatever the cost. Goliath's fist shook with suppressed rage. Ella nodded in agreement, understanding the stakes. But Urian, he stood frozen, his mind racing with a different calculation. Would submission really guarantee survival? As the seniors mocked them like prey, Urian saw the truth. Leaving his fate in the hands of these tyrants was the quickest way to fail. A spark lit up in his eyes. He stepped forward, voice dripping with feigned respect. Honored seniors, he began, catching Nigel and his lackey completely off guard. The trap was set. With a confident smirk, he dropped the bombshell. How about a little wager? The blonde senior's face twisted in fury. A mere commoner, a freshman, daring to challenge the hierarchy. The audacity was suffocating. But Urian didn't back down. Let us prove our worth right here, right now. Provoked and prideful, the blonde senior took the bait instantly. Challenge accepted. A barrel of training weapons skidded across the floor. Nigel barked orders, commanding the freshmen to arm themselves. The playtime was over. The seniors drew their own blades, steel glinting in the light. A mock battle. If the rookies could survive, they'd earn their respect. If not, well, bad luck. Another senior chuckled darkly. Careful now, my blade is real. He whispered the chilling truth. In the chaos of a hunt, who could tell if a wound came from a beast or a friendly sparring match? Urian's gaze remained steady. You really want to do this, real steel? He asked, testing their resolve. Nigel just laughed at their fear, but instead of trembling, the 3 freshmen bowed. Goliath grinned. This was his chance to secure his spot in the elite. Which one? Ella asked, eyes darting over the pile. Doesn't matter, Urian replied coolly. Just grab one and get ready. The audience was watching. The swordsman tightened his grip. Don't hold back, Nigel. This wasn't a lesson anymore. It was an execution. In a blur of motion, the senior lunged. Steel crashed against steel, but Ella didn't budge. The senior recoiled, shock rippling through his arm. That block was heavy. Mana reinforcement. He gasped. The commoner girl was stronger than she looked. Ella grit her teeth, memories of her past weakness flashing before her eyes. Back then, she was helpless. Her hesitation had almost cost Urian his life. Never again. She locked her stance. She wouldn't be the victim today. Panic set in. Nigel, shield me, the swordsman screamed. Nigel chanted quickly, weaving a shimmering barrier of magical armor around his partner. Boom! The ground shook as Goliath launched himself like a cannonball. He ignored the swordsman and charged straight for the backline Nigel. Dark energy surged around Goliath's fist. With a savage tear, He ripped the staff right out of the mage's hands. Nigel blinked, staring at his empty palms in disbelief. Shadows coalesced, forming a jagged blade in Goliath's grip. Rule number 1 of combat, he growled. Always take out the sorcerer first. The swordsman panicked, pivoting to charge at Urian. I'll crush the weak link, he roared. But Allah stepped in, eyes blazing. Over my dead body. As the blade descended, Urian didn't move. He simply waited, calm amidst the storm. A faint smile touched his lips. The senior froze mid-strike. A chill ran down his spine. Something was wrong. Something was here. The air grew heavy with bloodlust. The senior stared, mind reeling. Ella felt it to a primal warning screaming in her gut. Danger. Shadows erupted behind Urian. A beast materialized from the void, claws slashing down Urian. Ella's scream pierced the chaos. She didn't think. She threw herself forward, shoving Urian aside. *// the claws tore across her back. Ella. Goliath roared, his voice cracking with fury. Pure rage ignited Goliath's aura. His demonic sword shrieked, twisting into its second form, the helix. He launched himself into the air, a meteor of vengeance. *crunch*, the helix strike obliterated the beast's skull on impact. The massive creature crumpled to the floor, lifeless before it even hit the ground. The senior scrambled back, terrified. One hit. A freshman killed a summoned beast in one hit. Then reality crashed back in the girl. She took a lethal blow. Ella, Urian scrambled to her side. But she looked up, calm. I'm fine. Before their eyes, the jagged claw marks knit together, vanishing without a trace. The senior's jaw hit the floor. Instantaneous regeneration? That wasn't just magic, that was a miracle. He looked at the three monsters disguised as students. *, are these really freshmen? *, the gap in power was undeniable. Frustration and fear clawed at his throat. He swallowed his pride, teeth grinding. Fine, you pass. He promised no negative reports, but his eyes burned with resentment. He would never admit defeat to a commoner like Urian. Nigel dusted himself off, trying to salvage his dignity. The big guy has potential. He sniffed, but that's survival, pure luck. Just a protection spell gone right. Don't get cocky, the seniors shouted, fleeing with their shattered egos. You're still weak. Urian watched them go, a dry laugh escaping his lips. Fair point, he muttered. The original curriculum stated the class would be held in a peaceful forest cabin. But sitting in the faculty room, Instructor J reveals the cold truth. This joint class was never part of the plan. Another instructor shrugs off the sudden change, claiming his colleague might not know that plans often shift on a whim. J demands to know if this negligence is acceptable. Her colleague simply smirks, telling her to trust the elite second-year students and give the teachers a break. What was meant to be a simple theory lesson had spiraled into a full-blown monster hunt. The two male instructors laugh, trying to mask their embarrassment while scrambling to manage the chaos they created. J asks the critical question, won't her students get crushed? Even with the best second years present, the instructor waves off her concern with a laugh. But the malicious intent behind their negligence is clear as day. J stares them down, debating her next move. Should she praise their audacity for provoking her students, or teach them a lesson in pain? A suffocating pressure floods the room, terrifying the two men. J takes a calm sip of her tea, deciding to let the game play out. After all, her students are advanced for a reason. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a senior questions Jade about his bloodline and the demonic sword. The senior turns to Goliath, confirming that the commoner siblings have been isolated, leaving only Jade in their clutches. Jade stands alone, facing the seniors who summoned him to this secluded spot. The young man praises their setup. Then Lel, the top-ranked monster of the second-year advanced class, steps forward to offer Jade some advice. This group is known as the Devil's Den, a title earned solely because of the monster ranked number 1. During the last entrance ceremony, Lel demanded absolute obedience. When some nobles dared to question him, he faced all 10 advanced students alone. It was a massacre that didn't end until he had crushed the other 9 in a decisive showdown. The 3 who eventually knelt remained in the class, while the 6 who resisted were purged without mercy. Now, only 4 students remain in the second-year elite class. Ruled by a brutal and strict hierarchy, Goliath asks why the entire elite squad has gathered. Lel ignores him, telling Jade that he knows the tragic history of his family. He mocks the declining lineage of the demon sword, noting that Jade carries a heavy destiny in such weak hands. His voice drops to a whisper, reminding Jade that if he fails to graduate from the advanced class, his entire family will crumble. A memory flashes through Jade's mind. His father, furious, questions the worth of modern magic tools compared to their ancestral blades. He explains that as cheap magic tools flooded the kingdom, their noble house, the guardians of the demon swords, began to rot away. The memory shifts to the dinner table, where his father calls out to him with a voice like iron. In the vision, the desperate man reaches out, grasping for salvation. He demands Jade graduate from the advanced class at any cost. If he fails, his mother, his siblings, and the entire house will face total ruin. Back in the present, Lel makes an offer. He will guarantee Jade's graduation from the elite class. Jade stares at him, suspicious of the charity. Lel reveals that powerful eyes are watching this exam, entities too strong to comprehend. He explains they have received a special mission, and the reward is absolute. If they succeed, graduation is guaranteed. Jade is stunned, realizing that for monsters like Lel, graduation is nothing more than a trivial game. Lel confirms the suspicion and orders Jade to target the commoner siblings and follow his command. He claims that compared to the hell of the advanced class, betraying his friends is a simple task. He frames it as an act of mercy, giving Jade a chance to save his struggling family and finally be a true son. Returning to his team, Ella asks if he is hurt. Urian mentions they were worried by his long absence, while Ella asks about the upperclassmen. Jade trembles, fearing the teachers will find out about his failure. Dark energy begins to pool in his palm. Urian notices the shift in Jade's eyes instantly. He screams for Ella as Jade raises the dark sword behind her back. A blast of dark energy erupts from the blade, binding the 2 siblings instantly. Urian grits his teeth, calling this a cruel joke. Goliath watches from the shadows, warning his team to be careful with Jade's unstable power. He explains that high-voltage energy flows between the swords, making any wound nearly impossible to heal. Urian realizes Jade is using the true demon sword skill. Jade apologizes, his voice trembling, and asks them to stay trapped. He reveals the seniors told him he must monopolize the points to survive. He pleads that he must stay in the advanced class to save his family. He reasons that commoners like them can drop out safely, promising to free them when it's over, all while begging for forgiveness. Later, Lel appears in the forest, confused by the scene. He finds Jade collapsed on the ground, despite the order to neutralize the siblings. Fury builds in his eyes as he questions if the boy is trying to disobey a direct order from his superior. Jade lifts his battered face, perched on a rock like a king. Lurel commands him to hunt down the siblings and obey. Jade scoffs. It seems the High Council can't stomach commoners learning magic. Lurel reveals the ugly truth. Their mission, to purge the commoner students. The other teachers have been lured away to a single location. He declares with cold eyes that this mission must be completed. Do not disappoint the higher-ups. This is Jade's chance to save his family and be a filial son. Lurel stares down at the wounded boy groveling in the dirt. He shakes his head, confused. Why resist? Jade needs to graduate from the advanced class to survive. Why sacrifice everything for a couple of filthy commoners? Jade cuts him off. They have names, Ella and Urin. The upperclassman sneers. It has been barely 2 days since admission. Impossible to form a bond that deep. Jade's fist clenches against the cold ground. He grits his teeth. This isn't about friendship. He asserts the truth. Ella's sword talent is undeniable. And Urin? Though his magic is weak now, his intellect is vast. He will become a leader who guides the kingdom to prosperity. His potential for healing is limitless. One day, the world will recognize him. He will heal the sick and save countless lives. Jade declares with burning conviction, they are the future, a light far brighter than any noble who judges value solely by bloodline. Lurel echoes the words, a brighter future. He admits Jade might be right, but he steps closer. For Jade's family, nothing remains but despair. Defying a high-ranking noble's order is a capital crime. It would only accelerate his family's total ruin. He mentions Jade's younger siblings, naive, innocent, clueless about the cruelty of the world. The memory hits him, Sade and Hazel, running with open arms to celebrate his acceptance into the advanced class. Jade held them tight, but their question froze his heart. Will father smile again? Will we finally be happy? Jade had no words. He stood frozen, silence his only answer. He hugged them tighter, begging them to believe in him. He swore to graduate, his mind filled with the image of his broken father. Back in the cold reality, Laurel sighs. It is not too late. He extends a hand. He asks the impossible question. Why choose the kingdom's abstract future over his own blood? What did his innocent siblings do to deserve ruin? Laurel's voice turns hard. Resist all you want. The commoners will be purged today. No teachers are coming to save them. He keeps his hand extended. Pull yourself together, Jade. Finish the mission. Laurel assures him there is no hatred here, only duty. He offers a pact. Walk this path, and they can live as successful nobles together. Jade slaps the hand away. He snarls at Laurel to back off. He would never sell his soul like that. He roars his vow. He will protect his friends and his family. Laurel watches in ominous silence. You will regret this. The boy braces for battle. Laurel and the second-year advanced class step forward. They have arrived to hunt Urin and Ella. Jade stands as a human shield, determination burning in his eyes. Laurel admits it. This opponent is stronger than anticipated. Jade charges. He will not lose. Defeat here means death for Ella and Urin. Laurel draws a small dagger. He makes a chilling declaration. He will land 10 strikes on Jade before finishing the siblings. Jade scoffs at the short blade. He rushes in with blinding speed, but suddenly his body freezes mid-air. Seizing the opening, Laurel strikes with surgical precision. Pain explodes as Jade takes the hit. His adversary smirks. He has mastered long swords, yes, but daggers are his true passion. He enjoys watching the light fade from his opponents up close. Jade collapses to the dirt. Laurel counts coldly. 9 strikes remain. One of the lackeys cheers. The movement sealing skill worked perfectly. Another shudders, admitting the technique is terrifying. Nigel explains the horror of it. Even they struggled against him at first. Because Laurel doesn't fight. He executes a one-sided massacre. Laurel eyes his blade. He warns Jade. The next attack comes in 10 seconds. The countdown begins. Jade lies broken on the ground. But then, he rises. He grips his demonic sword, bracing himself against the pain. Fourth form unleashed, an energy whip manifests, lashing out at his enemy with ferocious speed. Laurel raises a hand at the last microsecond. Blocked, he defends effortlessly. And once again, Jade's body locks up. In a blink, Laurel appears behind him, a devastating blow to the spine. The attacker chuckles. Jade's reactions are amusing. He hurls Jade into the dirt like trash. Another countdown begins. Laurel stands tall, watching the seconds tick away like a death sentence. At the absolute limit, Jade triggers the sword's third form. Multiple energy spears materialize, rocketing toward his enemy. Impact, the spears strike Laurel dead on. The surrounding students gasp in shock. They murmur in disbelief. This year's advanced class is a monster. For Jade to conjure so many spears while paralyzed, unbelievable. Jade claws at the dirt, gasping for air as a spear shatters Laurel's hand. But pain is nothing to a monster. Laurel ignores the wound and launches a vicious blindside attack. The clock is ticking down, hidden in the shadows. Urian watches the carnage unfold in total silence. He whispers to Ella, shattering her hope the rumors about the scores were nothing but a dirty lie. Terror grips her heart as she watches the upperclassman corner Jade. Will he survive this? Urian tries to steady her trembling shoulders, insisting Jade can handle these too. But even his voice wavers. A dark premonition hangs in the air. In the clearing, Jade collapses to his knees, his stamina completely drained. A lackey stomps on Jade's head, only to recoil in sudden terror at the look in Jade's eyes. Laurel snaps, barking at the coward to leave if he has no stomach for violence. Victory is the only law here. As the minion scrambles away, Lurl turns his cold gaze back to his prey, mocking Jade's refusal to stay down. He declares that every struggle has been futile. Now, he will crush the siblings and end this charade once and for all. He spits out the cruel truth: Jade's resistance hasn't saved anyone. It has only accelerated his family's inevitable destruction. Lurl crouches low, staring into Jade's soul. He demands answers. Why cling to pride? Why let his bloodline rot in the dust? Why refuse to kneel? He offers a devil's bargain. Join him in crushing the commoners, and perhaps, just perhaps, Jade can still save his wretched kin. But Jade isn't listening to threats. He is calculating. Movement lock lasts 5 seconds. Cooldown is 10. Lurl glares, annoyed that his prey is analyzing the mechanics of his own death. Impatient, Lurl delivers another brutal strike, screaming that knowing the numbers won't change the outcome. Defying logic, Jade forces his broken body off the ground. Lurl rips the spear shard from his own hand, trembling with rage at this cockroach's resilience. He reminds Jade of the stakes: graduation from the advanced class is everything. Does he truly care nothing for his family's survival? Jade stands like a statue, absorbing the insults. He listens as his enemy mocks him for bleeding and dying for the sake of mere commoners. A faint, mysterious smile touches Jade's lips. He throws the question back: why is Lurl so obsessed with crushing ordinary people? Gritting his teeth, Jade straightens his spine and delivers the ultimate insult. Do you even have a single real friend? He calls the upperclassman pathetic. That snaps the final thread of Lurl's patience. Roaring with fury, he lunges to deliver the death blow. The attack carries enough force to shatter bone, but it never lands. A sudden flash of steel sends Lurl's dagger spinning through the air. Jade blinks in shock as a figure lands before him. He looks up at Urien, confused about the sudden intervention. In a blink, golden light envelops Jade, knitting his wounds together instantly. Urien smirks, warning him not to act tough when he is barely standing. The spectators gasp, instant full recovery. The rumors about the monster healer were true. Lurl stands frozen, his eyes locked on the new rival. Urien turns his icy gaze to the enemy. He promises that no one walks away from this fight without paying in blood, especially the one with the nasty face. He tells Jade to gear up. Lurl retrieves his fallen dagger, a twisted smile spreading across his face as he laughs at the insolent fool challenging him. Lurl charges like a rabid beast, screaming that he will crush Urien for daring to interfere. But Urien doesn't flinch. He stands perfectly still. A confident smirk plays on Urien's lips. Mana gathers in his palm, swirling into a dense sphere of destructive power. Second form, Demon Sword. The blast slams into Lurl with devastating precision. Meanwhile, Lurl notices with horror that Jade's energy has completely returned. It is impossible instant and total restoration. While Lurl reels from the blow, Jade steps up, demanding to know why Urien risked coming here. He scolds Urien for entering such a dangerous zone. But Urien simply points to the blood on Jade's clothes. He was not exactly winning. Jade blinks, confused. He feels fine now. Did he miss something in the heat of battle? Urien assures him the healing was flawless, and as for Ella, she is safe and sound. He explains he was busy guarding the princess's team. Jade lets out a breath. He didn't know he was holding that as a massive relief. Are you done whispering? Lurl interrupts, his voice dripping with venom. He hates being ignored. Jade is stunned by the man's pettiness while Urien just finds it amusing. But the air suddenly grows heavy. Lurl's mana explodes outward, saturated with pure killing intent. Jade shouts for Urien to run. Urien's smile fades. This guy is far more dangerous than he looked a moment ago. Who said you could leave? Lurl hisses. The invisible chains of his ability snap into place, locking their bodies once again. But who is the real target? Lurl blurs forward with his dagger, and Jade frantically tries to predict who will take the hit. Moving on instinct, Jade summons the Demon Sword, his reflexes pushed to the absolute limit. Eighth form, Aegis, a barrier materializes just in time. Jade knew Lurl would rely on that movement lock. It was too predictable. Lurl screams insults as his attack bounces off. Urien raises an eyebrow, joking that calling that thing a sword is a bit of a stretch. but it is certainly useful. Jade realizes the truth. The paralysis was bait to force him to jump in front of Urian. Laurel laughs, asking if he feels smart for predicting an attack while his body freezes up. Laurel grabs the immobilized Jade, mocking his helpless struggle. Urian snaps, cursing the villain and calling him an ugly piece of trash. His voice drops an octave, deadly serious. If you ever show your face again, I will end your life before your brain even processes the strike. Laurel freezes. The threat hangs in the air, heavy and suffocating. For the first time, the hunter feels the cold grip of fear. Euron summoned his energy, activating his healing arts on Jade. Confused, Jade gasped, "Why has Lel stopped his assault?" Forcing himself to stand on trembling legs, Jade's eyes burned with resolve. This is it, our only chance to defeat the enemy. But the enemy's patience had finally snapped. Lel's face twisted into a mask of pure fury as he roared at his hesitant squad. "I am done playing games," he bellowed. "You have 10 minutes to wipe them from existence." Like hungry wolves responding to their alpha, 3 elite students emerged from the shadows, grinning with bloodlust. "Finally, we have been waiting for this order." Jade's heart sank like a stone. In the heat of battle, he had completely forgotten about the reinforcements lurking in the dark. "Did you really think you could escape me?" Lel sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "Let alone the entire second-year advanced class?" As the new threat materialized, Jade froze in terror. "What can I possibly do?" Jade thought, panic clawing at his throat. "No. Stop these useless thoughts. Cowering won't change fate." He forced a breath into his burning lungs, scanning for a sliver of hope. He clenched his fist until his knuckles turned white, forcing his mind to clarity. Determination surged, but before he could move, a hand landed gently on his shoulder. "Rest now," Yuri's voice cut through the tension. "You have done enough." Confusion washed over Jade as his vision blurred. His legs gave out, but Euron was there to catch him before he hit the ground. "Hey, stay with me. Are you all right?" "Pathetic," a student scoffed from the enemy lines. He fainted from sheer terror. Ignoring the taunt, Yuri turned to Euron. "Lead the rest of them away. Get some sleep while you can." Meanwhile, miles away, a heavy silence hung in the air. A massive sword stood embedded in the earth like a tombstone. "They are late," a voice murmured in the wind. Ricky, the second-ranked monster of the advanced class, tapped his foot impatiently. "Are we just going to leave our teammate behind?" Beside him, Ella whispered to the princess, "Something feels wrong. The situation is strange." Euron promised he would return immediately. Ella continued, worry creasing her brow. For him to be delayed, trouble must have found him. Princess Rudy, the undisputed rank one, nodded solemnly. "Agreed. We go find him." But as they turned to leave, a sharp-eyed student froze. "Wait, they have fallen." Back on the battlefield, Lel's killing intent spiked. "Find them, slaughter them all. Leave no witnesses to tell the tale." He spat on the ground, annoyed. That rat ran off carrying the dead weight on his back. Suddenly, Lel froze. A chilling presence was approaching fast. He glared at the mysterious figure approaching in a helmet. "Who are you?" Lel demanded. One of his lackeys stepped forward, arrogant and foolish. "Get lost. We are on a mission from the superiors." The figure ignored them, cracking his neck with a satisfying pop. "Man," Yuri Sunong sighed. "It has been ages since I had a proper workout." He stretched his limbs casually, as if preparing for a morning jog. "I certainly hope none of you die too easily." Lel's eyes narrowed to slits. "I will ask one last time. Who are you?" The helmeted warrior pointed a thumb at himself. "Yuri, the genius swordsman." Unimpressed, Lel scoffed. "Attack him while he stands there posing." Instantly, 3 students launched a lethal ambush. A cruel smile touched Lel's lips. Leading the charge was Zen Kang, a human tank known for pulverizing boulders with his bare hands. Flanking him was a twisted soul, a strange boy whose eyes gleamed with the sick pleasure of the kill. And finally, Kelly, physically the weakest, but a flawless assassin who never failed a mission. "My subordinates are elite," Lel declared, crossing his arms. "They will take you apart, piece by bloody piece." He smirked at Yuri. "Is standing still all you can do?" Boom! The air exploded. Suddenly, the bodies of his allies were blasted backward as if hit by a freight train. Lel spun around, his smirk replaced by pure shock. High above, his three elites hung upside down, embedded deep into the tree trunks, unconscious. Lel stared at the scene, his mind struggling to process the impossible. "Your little restriction ability does not work on me," Yuri Sunong stated flatly. "Stop with the petty tricks." Lel's face darkened. "Petty tricks?" he repeated, his pride wounded. "Clean your ears," Yuri scolded like a disappointed teacher. "Listen when someone is talking to you." Snarling, Lel lunged with a jagged dagger, aiming for the throat. Clang. Yuri blocked it without breaking a sweat. "I told you, it won't work. Is this really the extent of your skills?" Lel said nothing, his eyes burning with hate. He unleashed a storm of strikes, a blur of steel targeting every vital point. But Yuri was a fortress, deflecting every blow with casual ease. "What is the matter?" Yuri shouted over the clash of steel. "You can't win a fight just by blocking. Is that what you think?" Yuri shifted his stance, immovable as a mountain. Snap. Lel's dagger shattered into useless shards against Yuri's defense. "Are you really the top-ranked sophomore?" Yuri asked, voice dripping with boredom. He shook his head. "I won't even break a sweat at this rate. This is bitterly disappointing." Lel glared, tossing the broken hilt aside. Slowly, a sinister smile stretched across his face. "It has been for years," he whispered, "since I last drew a long sword." "Come then," Yuri challenged, eager for a real fight. Lel vanished, reappearing instantly as a blur of motion, closing the distance at supersonic speed. Attempting the same frontal assault, Yuri questioned, tracking the movement. "Did you think my power was limited to just restricting movement?" "I am the top ranker for a reason," Lel roared. He curved his blade in an impossible arc, slicing across Yuri's shoulder. Blood sprayed. Yuri glanced at the cut on his uniform. "No one can keep up with my speed," Lel declared triumphantly. "That is why I reign supreme." Last year, Lel gloated, circling his prey. "I was the one behind the brutal assault during the advanced class entrance ceremony. But the Royal Magic Academy directors protected me. They declared my talent vital to the kingdom's success. How dare you think you can match me?" His eyes shone with arrogance. "In this world, speed is absolute power." Yuri chuckled, unbothered. "You have a tough body. I planned to neutralize your left arm, but I only managed to scratch." He pointed a finger at the wound. "But that mark on my shoulder, that is not my mark." Confused, Lel looked down. His eyes widened in horror. A massive, gaping slash mark had appeared across his own chest. When? The pain hit him a second later. Lel collapsed to his knees, coughing blood. "Tedious," Yuri muttered, looking down at the fallen prodigy. "The kingdom's future depends on my talent." Lel wheezed, desperate. Yuri's eyes went cold. "Rich words," he replied, coming from a monster who just tried to murder his own classmates. A heavy silence falls. A jagged memory surfaces, Lel dragging young Jade through the dark forest. Reality snaps back. Lel lies broken on the ground, dagger in hand. Jade is down. Yuri calls out to the scene. He steps closer, voice cold. "I won't let you off that easily." Lel trembles, demanding to know who this monster is. Yuri raises his sword. "Goodbye." Miles away, Princess Sruti senses a disturbance, a pulse of dark energy. Ricky realizes the truth. That energy signature, it's Yuri's song, the culprit from the exam. The wind begins to gather. Sruti shouts for Ella to move. Ricky tears through the forest, wind at his back, eyes locked on his destination. He crashes onto the scene. His worst fears are confirmed. Top rank Yuri stands over a defeated Lel. Ricky steps out, shouting Yuri's song. But the helmeted warrior replies calmly, "Call me Eurus." Ricky seethes. Wasn't Lel, the sophomore ace, enough for your bloodlust? You want more. Why spare the others? Ricky demands. Eurus shrugs, voice flat. "I haven't eliminated anyone yet." Lies. Ricky realizes talk is cheap. He grips his weapon. Diplomacy is over. He readies his stance. "I'll beat the truth out of you." Eurus tilts his head. "Are you stronger than Lel?" "Don't underestimate me," Ricky roars. "You'll regret this." Witness the power of WY, the great spirit of wind. "Great spirit?" Eurus asks. Hirsch's voice cuts in spirits, can mimic anything, from demon kings to dragon beasts. Eurus nods behind the helmet. As expected, This world holds races far beyond humanity. Ricky chants, invoking wise power. Energy surges. Eurus smirks internally. Cool. Should I pop an awakening skill? Ricky's eyes glow. He unleashes hell, 1,000 wind swords tearing through the air. The barrage slams into Eurus. A direct hit. Ricky exhales, but a voice echoes. How refreshing. The dust clears. Eurus stands unharmed, hand resting casually on his sword hilt. Asterisk swing. Asterisk with one casual swing. He swats the remaining blades away. Ricky's weapon begins to glow with desperate energy. Ricky spots a gap. The opponent lowered his guard. This is his golden chance. He lunges for the kill, but Eurus watches the blade come in slow motion. Not bad, he murmurs. But can you guess the 2 words you're about to see? Ricky charges, confusion mixing with rage. Asterisk flash, asterisk Eurus vanishes and reappears behind him. The answer is after image. Ricky freezes, outplayed again. Eurus sheathes his blade. Still, I'll give you credit. You're better than the rest of the trash here. Suddenly, an announcement blares. The senior joint class is cancelled immediately. The rogue suspect, Yuri Song, has struck again. Elsewhere, Instructor G marches down the hall with murder in her eyes. Director Mages intercepts her. Instructor Haiwen, you've heard the report? He nods gravely. I heard. The staff was scrambling to find you while chaos reigned. I was blocked. G spits out. Mages raises an eyebrow. I didn't take you for the type to be stopped. I held back, she reveals, voice trembling. I never dreamed they'd target my students. G's eyes narrow. This stinks of high authority. Someone powerful is pulling the strings. Mages sighs. I agree. A high-ranking noble is behind this. G stares at him, the image of her ruined classroom burning in her memory. Amidst the mental wreckage, she confronts him. I sincerely hope you aren't part of this, Director. Haiwen, he warns, tone dropping. This situation is dangerous, and not just for you. My students were attacked. G counters, fury radiating from her. I am innocent, Mages vows. I'm already interrogating the staff who detained you. They were just following orders. Then investigate the honors class, she demands. They were the ones confronting my kids. They're recovering from Yuri's assault. Mages deflects, but the investigation starts now. G pauses. Is Yuri Song an Empire spy? Mages shakes his head. Unconfirmed. But we're running out of time. He is a dangerous anomaly, Mages concludes. Hiding in plain sight, plotting something we can't foresee. Meanwhile, blissfully unaware, Yurin devours a feast. So good. Ella cheers, offering sweets to Yuri, who is also stuffing his face. Yuri chews thoughtfully. Will this mess up my grades in the honors class? Even with another dangerous lesson? Chris scoffs at their relaxed vibe, but Yuri snaps back, irritation flaring. You want to go? Chris challenges him. Yuri smirks dangerously. You'll regret that, idiot. Heine and Goliath stood tall, brushing off the dust. They admitted they were hit by the culprit, but their recovery speed was nothing short of monstrous. CIA bit her lip, envy flashing in her eyes at their resilience. Suddenly, Mua flinched. Something was wrong. Before CIA could ask, Jade came sprinting in, shouting desperately for Ella and Urian. Tears welling up, Jade grabbed them, overcome with relief that they were still breathing. Urian, calm as ever, simply looked at him. Are you okay, though? Jade admitted he had fainted from the shock, a sheepish grin on his face. Ella's expression darkened. She scolded him instantly, furious that he had risked his own life to protect them. Her voice trembled with emotion. From now on, never try to be a hero alone. We survive this together, or not at all. Jade's eyes sparkled with hope. Does that mean we are precious friends? He beamed at the thought, but Urian destroyed the moment instantly. Sorry, but my sister comes first. Then the lunch menu. You are a distant third, Jade. Jade chuckled, unfazed by the brutal ranking. I'll wish myself good luck then, he whispered, accepting his place in the hierarchy. The chaos of the joint class finally settled. Against all odds, every first-year student survived the demotion threat. Even Urian, hiding his true power, secured his spot in the honor class. But peace is a luxury that never lasts. Months later, Director Mages dropped a bombshell announcement. The special magic student, Urian, faced immediate expulsion if he failed the upcoming exam. Urian clenched his fist. It was true. He was now walking a razor's edge, with his entire future hanging by a thread. The enrollment contract was clear. Low grades meant instant removal. The director smiled confidently, believing Urian would pass with ease. Urian nodded, hiding the storm brewing behind his eyes. The room went silent as the director cleared his throat. The briefing was far from over. "Listen well," Mages declared. "This is the Royal Magic School's midterm, a monster hunting survival test for the honor class. The rules were simple but brutal. They would be dropped into the exam forests. To return, they needed to collect 20 points or die trying." Riso frowned, complaining that the math sounded too complicated. Chris shot him a glare, scolding him for disrespecting the gravity of the situation. Director Mages chuckled, praising Riso's curiosity. Then, he revealed the enemy hierarchy. Level 1 monsters are beasts: wolves, bears, tigers, primal predators. His voice dropped an octave, level to our weapon types: swords, bows, and axes that have gained a soul and a thirst for blood. The tension in the room spiked. Level 3 are natural disasters: typhoons, earthquakes, living calamities. He paused for effect. Level 4 are disease types: walking plagues that rot you from the inside out. And finally, the director whispered, "There's only one level 5 monster in existence: time itself." The warning was clear. As the level increases, the danger to humanity shifts from physical to catastrophic. Urian's mind raced, analyzing the lore. Monsters weren't just animals. They were the sworn enemies of mankind. But his train of thought was derailed by Riso interrupting again about the points. Mages smiled patiently. "Excellent question, Student Riso. Level 1 kills are worth 2 points. Level 2 kills grant you 5 points. Goliath cracked his knuckles, a savage grin appearing. "Simple enough. We just hunt until we hit 20. No need for more talk. You have 5 days, the director announced, his gaze sharpening. "And make no mistake, this is an individual competition. You are on your own." Urian did the math instantly. To pass without revealing his godlike strength, he needed a specific target. For level 2 monsters, that's the limit. Suddenly, Mua raised a hand. "Director, how many points for a level 3 calamity?" The director's eyes narrowed. "You are the third first year to ask that dangerous question. A level 3 is worth 20 points. An instant pass," Mages replied cold. "But if you see one, run. Do not look back." Rachel scoffed, stating the obvious. A student taking down a disaster class? Impossible. Professor Gonby stepped in, assuring them that the faculty would intercept any level 3 threats. Instructor G stepped forward, radiating an intense aura. "Listen up. No interference allowed this time. Not from monsters, and certainly not from the adversary, Yurisu." She placed a hand on her weapon. "As the exclusive guard of the honor class, I will handle the threats personally." Urian smirked internally. The surveillance was tighter than ever. The midterms were becoming a very interesting stage. The real question wasn't if he could survive. It was whether Urian could secure a passing grade without exposing the monster living inside him. The director's voice boomed one last time. "The hunt begins now. Remember, 2 points for a beast, 5 for a weapon." Urian sighed. The test itself was child's play. But gathering exactly 20 points while playing weak, that was the true challenge. Unseen eyes watched from every shadow, especially those of Instructor G. Chris walked up to Urian, a mocking sneer on his face. "You know this is solo, right?" He leaned in, whispering venomously. "How does a healer expect to get 20 points alone? You're useless without a shield." Ella stepped between them, her eyes blazing. "I'll help him however I can." Urian gently stopped her, thanking her with a nod. "Don't worry," Urian replied, his voice calm and cold. "I actually prefer working alone." Meanwhile, Professor Gonby signaled the director. "It is done," Gonby reported. "The students have been teleported to their hunting grounds." Director Mages nodded in satisfaction. Nearby, a female teacher activated a crystal sphere, the magical energy humming as it connected to the forest. The image flickered to life. Princess Rudy appeared on the screen, looking majestic amidst the wild. "Connection complete," the teacher announced. The director leaned forward, staring into the scrying spheres. Now then, who will be the first to clear this game? A professor chuckled confidently. Is there any doubt? With her monstrous talent, the princess will surely claim the first victory. Instructor Gaiyan, however, shifts the spotlight to another student, mentioning that Ricky isn't the only one displaying exceptional potential. Another professor chimes in, praising the entire batch of first-year students. But his curiosity immediately pivots to the mysterious magic student everyone is whispering about. Skepticism hangs heavy in the air as an instructor doubts a mere commoner can take the top spot, questioning if the boy can even pass the test on his own. Panic creeps into the teacher's voice. He insists that expulsion is not an option and that Urian must absolutely remain within the academy's walls. Gaiyan remains analytical, noting she hasn't witnessed his legendary instant recovery yet. She decides they must watch closely to see if he sinks or swims. Deep in the forest, Urian grumbles about the lack of privacy, his sharp eyes catching the shimmer of a magical floating eye tracking his every move from the sky. The stakes are lethal. Urian knows he needs 20 points to avoid expulsion, forcing him to walk a tightrope of passing the test without exposing his godlike powers. A strategy forms in his mind as he recalls that in this realm, the technique of instant full recovery is considered a miracle of the highest order. Urian pauses, calculating the rules of this world, wondering if the restrictive limit on his strength applies solely to offensive magic. Suddenly, a distraction costs him. A giant rat materializes from the shadows behind him, and Urian spins around, dryly noting the creature's hideous visage. The behemoth lunges for the kill, but Urian barely flinches, his gaze locking onto the surveillance eye hovering above as he grips his staff. With a casual wave, he summons a massive whirlpool back in the observation room. A teacher gasps in delight, praising the magnificent flow of his water magic. One instructor is left speechless, shocked to see a student manipulating his magical device with such unorthodox creativity. Gaiyan nods at his raw magical reserves, but she critiques the output, noting his attack power is too weak to bring the beast down. Unfazed by the monster's resilience, Urian smirks and taunts the beast, mocking it for looking like nothing more than a drowned, wet rat. He observes his own body, relieved that at this level of output, the agonizing pain in his heart remains dormant, triggering a flashback to a time when his heart nearly failed him. In that dark memory, he had attempted to unleash power magnitudes greater, confirming that as long as he stays within limits, discovery won't result in his death. The battle escalates as the giant rat splits apart, and in the blink of an eye, Urian is surrounded by 3 identical, snarling monstrosities. He calculates the critical threshold of his power, just as a skeletal horror emerges from the shadows behind one of the vermin. Urian watches with intense focus as a phantom sword manifests from the void, a living weapon that launches itself forward at breakneck speed. The magical blade dances through the air, unleashing a flurry of strikes that decimate the giant rat while Urian effortlessly weaves through the incoming attacks. In the surveillance room, the teachers stare at the crystal spheres in stunned silence. As the smoke clears, the forest falls deathly quiet. Urian instantly activates his recovery skill. A teacher cheers for the flawless technique, while another is baffled that the boy took 0 damage. Urian dusts himself off, calculating that a level to monster of that caliber should easily net him the 5 points he needs. His thoughts drift to his friend, wondering if Ella is surviving. Meanwhile, Jade screams a warning to Ella as a monster looms directly in front of her. The threat steps into the light, revealing itself as a vicious level to monster. Jade shouts that they need to end this fast if they wanted to find Urian. Ella realizes the danger as the axe-wielding beast winds up for a devastating strike, and she and Jade brace themselves against the oncoming storm of violence. Jade lunges forward, his skill colliding with the monster's blow, straining every muscle to hold back the crushing weight of the attack. The creature's raw power is overwhelming, prompting Ella to jump into the fray. Adding her strength to Jade's desperate defense, they unite their powers to withstand the assault, but the impact is catastrophic, blasting them backward despite their combined efforts. Jade gasps out a thank you, but Ella shakes her head, insisting she only survived the blow because her precious friend was there to protect her. Jade flinches at the sentiment, while Ella stares at her trembling hands, realizing with horror that a leveled monster could easily cripple or kill them. Fear turns to resolve in Ella's eyes. She declares that they have no time to bleed and must defeat this beast to rescue Urian. Jade nods in agreement, grimly noting that if they are struggling this much, it will be nearly impossible for that guy to survive on his own. The reality sinks in. They barely survived a clash with a single leveled monster. Surviving the encounter boosts their confidence, proving the enemy is beatable. But their hope is cut short as the sky suddenly darkens into a swirling vortex. A nightmare descends. A level 3 monster, a living hurricane, manifests before them. While miles away, the teachers continue their surveillance. One sphere shows Urian wandering alone, while the instructors maintain their vigil, unaware of the catastrophe brewing in the exam zone. Without warning, the smooth surface of a crystal sphere fractures, a spiderweb of cracks spreading across the magical glass. The teacher holding it recoils in confusion. Just as an urgent report reaches Director Mages regarding critical anomalies in Areas A2, B3, and C1, an instructor's face goes pale as he confirms that 3 separate level 3 monsters have invaded the exam grounds. Mages realizes something is terribly wrong. This forest was a designated safe zone for first-year students, a place where only weak level 1 and 2 monsters were ever supposed to spawn. Recognizing the emergency, Mages barks orders for Garion, Jerry, and Juan to mobilize instantly and intercept the high-level threats. Mage's voice thunders with authority, declaring that the students are the future of the kingdom and must be protected at any cost. Back in the forest, the hurricane monster roars to life, and Ella looks up in terror, watching the sky fall apart above her head. She stared at the abomination, trembling. A level 3 monster? Impossible. Panic set in as they frantically searched for a weakness. Where do they even begin to strike this nightmare? Jade roared over the chaos, snapping Ella back to reality. Focus, Ella. Just survive until the instructors get here. Defense was their only option now. One hit could be fatal. Ella grit her teeth and nodded. Survival first. But amidst the terror, her heart drifted to Urian. Was he safe out there in this madness? Without warning, gravity betrayed her. Ella drifted helplessly into the air. Grab my hand. Jade screamed, stretching out as far as he could. Their fingertips brushed, inches from salvation. Got her. His grip tightened like iron. Don't you dare let go. Summoning his power, Jade fought against the forces of nature, desperate to maneuver them back to solid ground. A chill ran down his spine. Killer intent. Dodge. Jade commanded, just as the beast unleashed a devastating strike. Too late. The impact was catastrophic, hurling them across the battlefield like ragdolls. Groaning in the grass, Jade forced out the words, Ella, are you alive? I'm okay, she gasped. Jade pushed himself up, wiping blood from his lip. His eyes widened in horror. Out of the frying pan and into the fire, 2 monsters now stood between them and freedom. There was no running away. Jade channeled his aura, energy crackling around him. Beside him, Ella steeled her resolve, raising her blade. It was do or die. We have to break through their line, Jade bellowed. The axe-wielding nightmare charged, the ground shaking with every step. Jade didn't flinch. He planted his feet, ready to intercept. Dark sword style, 8th form. Shadows coalesced at his will, forming an impenetrable barrier just as the massive axe swung down. The clash rang out like thunder, but the shield held. Seizing the opening, Ella enveloped her sword in radiant energy. She vaulted over Jade's defense, soaring toward the second beast. Her steel met monster hide with a sickening thud, but the feedback through her hilt was wrong. It was too hard. A scratch, that was it. The beast barely flinched. Jade rushed to her side, eyes scanning for injuries. I'm fine. He reassured her, leaving Ella stunned by his concern amidst the carnage. Jade didn't hesitate. He launched himself at the enemy. Suddenly, time seemed to slow. A memory surfaced, his mother's voice, soft but stern. Do you really plan to throw your life away for us? In the memory, young Jade smiled. I'm not afraid to die if it protects the family. But his mother didn't smile back. Her face twisted with deep, maternal sorrow. No, she whispered, her voice trembling. That is not your duty. You do not exist solely to bleed for this family. She held his gaze. True strength is used to protect the innocent, your friends, and yourself. Never forget that. The words echoed in his mind, shattering his old philosophy. He realized the truth. Against Lel, he had held back, treating his life as a disposable tool. He had always believed that martyrdom was the only solution. That if he died, the problem was solved. How foolish he had been. Urian's scolding about his injuries, Ella's accusation that he had a death wish. It all clicked into place. The faces of his little siblings flashed before his eyes. Please don't get hurt, big brother. Jade's eyes snapped open in the present. The hesitation was gone. The eyes of a warrior remained. Magic sword, first form. Dark energy surged, twisting and screaming until it formed a massive, spectral skull. He unleashed hell. Ella watched in awe. What was that power? She couldn't even see the weapon, only the devastation it left in its wake. Incredible, she breathed. But the battle wasn't over. The hurricane monster began to spin, gathering momentum. Incoming. Brace yourself, Jade screamed. A tyrannical blast of wind slammed into them. They were helpless against the gale, tossed into the sky like dry leaves. How could wine be this strong? Gravity took hold, dragging them back down. Ella squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the bone-shattering impact. A fall from this height meant death. Asterisk Urian. Asterisk, she thought. One last time. Suddenly, the rushing wind stopped. They froze in mid-air, suspended by an unseen force. Ella touched down as light as a feather, while Jade crashed beside her. She looked up, hope rising in her chest. Urian? And there he was. Urian stepped from the shadows, calm as a placid lake. Is that really a level 3? He asked. Jade let out a breath he'd been holding. Thank God you're alive. The faculty is en route, Urian noted, his gaze locked on the beast. Tell me, is that thing worth 20 points? A smirk tugged at his lips. Why don't we take it down ourselves? Jade and Ella stared at him, dumbfounded. Have you lost your mind? Jade snapped. After everything we just saw. But Ella fell silent. Shame burned her cheeks. While she cowered in fear, Urian saw opportunity. He was a far greater warrior than she could ever hope to be.